What is up, fam? What is up? The time is now. You are here. You've made it. This is it. The Defango interview on Pandamonium. Holy crap. Everybody, welcome my guest, Defango.
Hello.
A little audio check for everybody. How is everything? Let me know. We're actually, because Defango's in the house, I can't come half stepping. So I'm actually doing my first restream to YouTube at the same time, and D Live is getting their first taste of Smooch Panda. I hope I don't scare them too bad. Wow. It's been an interesting time, guys. A huge, interesting time. If you guys don't know me, my name is Bruce Spencer. I am Smooch Panda. This is Defango. My show is all about say whatever the hell you want to say. And if it's legit, we're going to probably agree with it. And if it's not, we're going to debate it. You know what I mean? But it's all a censorship free zone. And for the folks that don't know Defango, where the hell have you been? This guy's been around social media for quite a long time. You could almost say he's an originator of some of these social media platforms as far as content creators. Been in the game a long time. So, Defango, give us a quick little synopsis. A lot of people know who you are, but there's going to be some folks that want to, know how you got into this thing and how things got started. So,
Well, my real name is Manuel Chavez the Third, or the Turd, depending on how you know me. Um, I started off on computers when I was a wee lad, like 7. I'm self-taught on most of that. Most of that stuff. I actually, in high school, I hacked my entire school's network, and I got a job off of that. Started working for Walmart, wrote myself out of a job, and then decided to become a chef. And honestly, I've never been able to get out of IT. I was running the IT department at my college while I was going to college. I mean, talk about a conflict of interest because I could probably could change my own grades if I wanted to. But, obviously, ethically, I did not need to do that because, it's culinary school and it's not hard to get a 4.0,
right.
and I got a 3.9. So,
Nice.
like, I think overall, it was a really interesting experience, but I've always had fun on the internet. Back in the day, I've been involved with movies and videos. I used to work on something called NinjaVideo.net. I made banners and things for it. US government really hated that. I had to talk to them about that, give up all my computer equipment for that a while back. But I mean, nothing ever came out of it because, I didn't do anything wrong, or they couldn't prove I did anything wrong, or they got the real fat meat that they really wanted. I
Right.
think overall, I never made any money, and that's not why I did it. I don't ever do things for money, and I think people think that's strange, but I think I've done a pretty good job over the last 2 years in showing people if you do donate stuff to my channels, I usually spend that on making the show better. And honestly, from all my YouTube revenue that I actually made off the cicada stuff, all I did was buy a van, and it was a piece of shit van, and it's cost me a bunch of money. So overall, it's just been kind of a harrowing experience where I'm just living life online. I used to work at this company called Firesight. We built websites, technology applications. We built a barbecue grill that you could control from your smartphone.
Right.
And I like doing stuff like that, things that are connected with food
Well, that's
and
been
whatnot.
a big thing right now in all the appliances. Uh, not just barbecue grills. That technology is being used pretty extensively with everything right now. So
That's
when
true.
did you do that?
That was starting in actually 2014. So
Nice.
I started working for them 2013, while I was still working for the college, and then they brought me on to be the director of IT, and I was there for them for a while. But unfortunately, due to harassments and stuff that were coming out of my YouTube career, they decided to let me go. Although it was more kind of like an amicable thing because I could have still worked with them. We were kind of just doing it to drop the heat off, but I just ended up, never really going back because I was like, honestly, do I really want to go sit at the office every day and work on websites and crap that I hate? Or would I rather try to, at least give this live stream thing one more shot?
Right. And so I mean for the really uneducated, as far as just uneducated to you, not stupid. You guys know what I'm talking about. Uh, you pretty much just do a variety type show on YouTube, and you've done that for how long now?
I started in YouTube in 2016. I've been uploading videos on YouTube since 2007,
Right,
and I was never really that popular. I did get invited to some like really cool things. I actually had other channels that I've deleted where, like I've made content for various reasons, and some of them are still up there actually. But when I had this channel, it was always like my main channel, and I never really thought to do anything with it. And really what happened was is that I was utilizing YouTube to like kind of like keep track of my work. So I would just turn the stream on and it would just be whatever I was doing on the computer and nobody would see my face. And I thought it was private, but apparently it wasn't private. So like people were watching me, like just go about my daily business on the computer, whatever I look at, whatever was going on.
whatever
And I
you're
think
working on.
yeah, whatever I was working on, if I was building a website or if I was like working on some client
Wow.
work, like I would just work on it directly. And I mean, I didn't have an audience, so it's not like people are attacking my people. It wasn't until I started solving this stupid ass puzzle that everything changed and
Right.
the harassment started and it was just like weird. And honestly, like I thought it was cool because, like I got to bless up the puzzle thing because, yeah, we did get some views off of that, like we were able to build a channel off of that while looking at news and current events and then, kind of just putting around on the internet, getting drunk or smoking weed. I think, overall I've been able to stop drinking pretty much completely where, which is pretty awesome, although I can have a beer or two every now and again
Right.
and not have a problem. Like I looked at it as like, can I really just cut alcohol out of my life? And now I have an entire or 2 year period where you could see that this is how I am when I'm drinking alcohol. I'm solving puzzles and you know just kind of
Uh,
hanging out playing video games. And then when I stopped doing alcohol, like I started working on other things.
so this is a sober Defango. Note to self: go back and look at those videos a couple years ago.
Yeah, go look at the original videos where I'm pounding a 12 pack.
Bang bang. So, uh, me and you had talked a little bit yesterday, and that's you mentioned the cicada puzzles, and we'll get right into that because I find that a lot of people that don't understand Defango is because they don't understand where all this came from. The YouTube beef and just the YouTube sphere. When you got into the YouTube sphere, started getting those clicks, started getting people paying attention to your channel, and getting into the thousands and then into the 10,000s. Did you find at that point that a competition type between other content creators thing, is that when all that started happening? When you started maybe taking views away? Is that how it was viewed? I mean, from what I see, it's almost like a
Um,
cutthroat world out here. And
I was pretty slow. I was pretty much solo. Like I would not go on anybody else's channels. I didn't really interact with anybody else. Actually, people would call me a dick for that because I was just like I don't trust anybody. And I was like, I was like, I just have this thing where all these other people are fakers because I was like, I'm not a faker. There's no way that I could fake what I do. Like full transparency on all things. People want to know how much is in my bank. I showed them if they want to see my crypto assets, I'll show them. Like I'm not hiding behind anything. And I know that's not the way that you're supposed to operate in life, but hey, I've afforded myself some at least, understanding about OPSEC and how to keep myself at least safe. And, like that's why overall I'm never afraid of any of this stuff. And
right.
puzzles were kind of like something that at first it was something that I just did and I thought it was fun, and then this cicada thing came along.
Right. Now that's what I want to pound down on. So for the folks that don't know, basically on what was it, social media platforms, these pictures appeared with hidden images in it as in the form of a puzzle. And it was a group of people looking for intelligent minds. And you take it from there.
Okay, so the original cicada puzzle was posted on 4chan, of all places on the export. Um, this puzzle was supposedly supposed to be something that they were looking using to find intelligent people. I didn't actually do it in 2012. I heard about it back then. I had seen the stuff, but I didn't really attempt it because I didn't think that I had any ability to do it. So for the first couple of years, I think I started actually solving it in 2013. I attempted again and failed because I didn't, like I wasn't fast enough. Like I was kind of like there at the very end.
Right.
So I made a promise to
How
myself that
extensive is this puzzle? The people that solve it, what time frame are we talking here?
they usually in the first 2 years of the puzzles, it was about a month basically. So like the puzzle ran for a month,
Oh
and if you didn't
wow.
get it done within that month, you were kind of just done. It was gone, then you had to wait till next year. And
Right.
for 2012, they said, "Hello, we are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised a test. There is a message hidden in this image. Find it and we'll lead you on a road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few that will be able to make it all the way through. Good luck, Cicada or 3301." So this image was kind of like very easily forgettable for some people, but some people tried to find the hidden image, the secret message with inside of it, and it kind of takes you on a ride where you have to understand cryptography. You need to be able to utilize the internet to find books, and you got to know a little bit about history in order to actually answer these questions. And then
Right.
on top of that, there actually was a lot of things where you actually had to build components to web servers and other type of messages. Or one of them, you had to build the TCP system where you could take certain commands, and then they were going to check it to see if you actually had the ability to do what you said that you could do.
Right.
So it was a really interesting puzzle that was in the first 2 years. It was really seeming to look for like computer programming oriented type people, like people that sit on the computer and really know code and things. So like I think it was a very big hit for people because nobody really knew what it was. But back then there was a kid named Marcus Wanners that solved this puzzles. I actually met him at DEF CON on 2017, and we talked extensively about Cicada because him and his buddies were always like, "Oh, you're solving that fake ass cicada puzzle." And I'm like, is it the fake cicada puzzle, or is it just the cicada puzzle that you don't like because it's not the one that you're involved with? And that's kind of the way that I really started to understand about this Schoenberger character, because these guys told me about him. Like I knew all about him. People were saying his name to me before I even ever got approached or even thought I had gotten
So
approached for
this is
this
the
guy.
third year, the third puzzle, right? When Schoenberger comes into the picture.
Yeah, in 2014 is when his name started showing up in the puzzle system. So he proclaims that he's been there from the very beginning, but has no evidence or proof
Now
or
for
cryptographic proof to prove that, by the way.
Right. Now, for the people who don't know, because I know he's a mystery figure to a lot of the people that are listening to this right now. Thomas Schoenberger, as far as I can tell from just basic searches, is a child prodigy in music. So he's an intelligent mind, a composer, travels the world. And really, if you look at his website, it's a bunch of bullshit. I spend all my time helping sick kids and blah, blah, blah. Guys, I've seen some emails. We'll get into those later. This is an evil motherfucker, but is there anything I missed in that?
Oh no, you're pretty much correct on all of that. So Schoenberger, he was there, and basically what seems to have happened is that there was a book that was put out called Liber Primus, and the original Cicada group put out a portion of the book with this thing called the PGP key, and there was about, I think it was like 12 or 13 pages. I don't know the exact number. I have the thing up to me, but I'm trying to push through this. But basically, they put out these portions of this book that were able to be solved, and then this other portion of books showed up, and there was a little bit of confusion as to whether they were real or not whether they were
Hmm.
real or not.
Right.
So, like some people said that the message that was signed with them checked out, but for some reason on like the websites where they categorize all of this stuff, they're missing portions of the stuff that they need in order for you to actually be able to solve the puzzles. Because what turns out is in the first 2 years of the puzzle, they were actually doing things that could be considered to be illegal in other countries, and then they were utilizing they're
Like like
breaking
what?
RSA cryptography. So
Okay. All right.
RSA is used in a wide assortment,
So
obviously, like right now.
hacking, right?
Yeah,
Basically
so it's
hacking.
hacking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the messages to get to the end is you had to crack an RSA message that was at like 46 bits or something, which is actually
Oh,
kind of difficult
right.
considering that like right now I think there's a prize for like two or for like 10:48 or something like that. But they give you prizes actually if you were able to accomplish this feat. So it's like not a simple feat, and it
Right.
actually took quite a few people.
And could be illegal.
Yeah, it could be definitely in other countries with their cryptography laws. It could be illegal for you doing this sort of thing
Now, is
because you know
this
it's kind of like having a.
Schoenberger's?
This is not Schoenberger though. This is
This is
the
to
original
save.
two.
Okay. Okay.
This is the original Cicada 3301.
Okay.
Now Schoenberger shows up in 2014 with this second half of this book called Liber Primus, with a bunch of these pages of this book that are pretty much unsolvable. Nobody's been able to figure it out. This Schoenberger character claims that he knows like the map. He's got a video on it, and la di da di da. But he can't do it, and he won't solve a page to prove to anybody that he did it, because obviously he probably didn't actually make it. But these are the claims that we were dealing with. So there was a group from the Uncovering Cicada uh wiki that I posted into the chat on YouTube. I think I can post it in the other ones too. I'll
Right.
post it in the other ones. So this wiki basically covers everything that happened, but the guys that run it they know all about Schoenberger, and they have like bad history with the guy, to the point where these guys work together. So you remember when Kim Jong Un showed up on the Times Man of the Year list?
Yeah.
These are the guys that actually made that shit happen. Like they
What?
did that shit. So like it was part of like one of the things. So Cicada to me was an organization that was like a bunch of really badass hackers that you had to like solve a bunch of gay ass puzzles that were really difficult, and prove that you were tight so that you could enter the scene. But this Marcus Wanners kid basically came out and said that it was kind of like a cult. He was like, yeah, it's not like we were making something and it was all right, but everybody kind of got disinterested, and then they kicked everybody out and they started the puzzle again. And like people were starting to just get really like, I don't really like it anymore. So there became this like break between the cicadas, where there was the people that liked the old style puzzles, and then there was like these new puzzles that some people were claiming that was fake. Now, what people don't get is that the first two puzzles you're learning how to break RSA encryption, but with the knowledge that you gain from that, any enterprising individual would have been able to figure out how to spoof something called a PGP key, which are rather important, even though the guy that created PGP says, hey, we don't use that anymore because it doesn't have any forward secrecy. You can re-sign messages if you know how to do it, so you can impersonate somebody. And that's kind of the thing, is somebody was able to impersonate Cicada and put out a new set of books and basically tried to take over the puzzle. I call it reputation hijacking.
Right.
So this guy Schoenberger is the Sony deal. He's got all this, all these Hollywood connections. And to me, it seemed like he was trying to infiltrate the puzzle so that he could make it something better, so that he could make a buck off of it in Hollywood. And the actual people that worked on the puzzles and stuff, I've actually talked to some of them, and like I got their blessing. They were like, basically, if you do this, this guy is going to try to troll you into oblivion, but like if you can survive this, like you'll have our respect for like running through this entire thing, because I was trying to prove if this was Cicada or not. So
Right.
I had
Right.
to do all this shit. I had to go meet the guy, and then I had to work with the guy. And in the beginning, he didn't even give me his real name. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to like define all this stuff down. And from the very beginning of me
What
solving
was
this
that all about,
cicada
dude?
puzzle in 2017, so there was more puzzles that came out after that that had a whole bunch of drama that doesn't really matter. But there was always this thing around this guy that people were having a problem with. Like it goes beyond me, is what I'm trying to say. Like there's other people. There's a whole laundry list of people on the internet. If you look around hard enough under his name, you'll see that everybody has probably talked shit about this guy at least once or twice in their life, and it's not normal. Okay.
Well, it seems like
So
anybody that's ever met this guy comes away with a strong impression, and they seem to. I mean, from what one of the first things I saw looking him up was he owes like hundreds of thousands of dollars to all these music acts that he had them come perform and then didn't pay them, and so there's like a lot of fucking people that don't like this guy, and that just scratches the surface of this
mhm.
fucking dude.
So The cicada thing is weird, right? Because people were talking about a fake puzzle in 2016. There was this Pi Moby puzzle that was loosely connected to cicada, some people think, but it was like another puzzle this guy had made. And some guy on 4chan found a spear in like France, and there was like a video, and it was like a thing. And that tracks into what I was doing in 2017, where these guys are actually telling me that there's cicada 3301, right? Like, I'm sitting down with Schoenberger and he's trying to say, "Yes, I am Cicada. You have met me. You have solved the puzzle." And I'm like, this is too easy, right? Like, this
Yeah.
is it.
Wait a minute.
Like,
Yeah.
so originally what happens is that I saw this other puzzle called Tangri 137, and I didn't solve all of it. I only solved a portion of it. Like, I was able to crack through something that nobody was able to get through for such a long time, and I finally started, like, I got everybody on their way, and then we got it solved together. Like, somebody else finally did the last part of it because I couldn't figure this shit out. Like, you needed to be an audio engineer in order to really understand it correctly, and I think that's the way that it was supposed to be designed. And after I finished solving this puzzle, like, I was like, cool, well, if this cicada thing like shows up in my life, I'll, give it a shot. Maybe I can do it. And that's when the strangeness happened. And I got an email from somebody named Joe Billionaire's dog. And he's like,
It's kind of
check
unique
this
name,
out.
isn't it?
Yeah, like
Joe
he's like,
Billionaire's
yo.
dog.
So he sends me a
Hey, I
video and
got an
it's
ice
all
cream.
cicada.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, nice.
That was
Thanks,
cool.
Series Cat, for the ice cream, bro.
Oh, that's how I
So,
do that. Thanks, Serious Cat, for the ice cream, bro. I do that right?
mhm, yeah, do it right. Just
Sweet.
hit him up.
All
What's
right.
up, bro?
I'm getting it, man.
Get it. So I get this video from this random person who is actually Thomas. I do not figure this out for a very, very long time, mind
Oh,
you.
right.
So I get this email from this random dude, and he's like, "Hey, check this out." And I was like, "Oh wow, cicada." So like I watched the video, and then I like tried to figure out where they were at, and then I started just solving the puzzle. Like, and I spent a pretty inordinate amount of time with it. Like, I would be at work all day, and then I would spend all night, like trying to figure the shit out. And I mean, I was having fun, but I didn't know what was going on. And I was like February to just after my birthday, where on my birthday, like, they put out a puzzle where it was about a spear, and they're like, you got to go find this thing. So I was like, oh, wow, this sounds tight, man. So I get the location of where this supposed spear is supposed to be. I get in my shitty Celica with my friend, and we just drive to California to go try to find the spear. I did it on live stream. It was actually cool, man. Like, it was an experience. I get there to the place where it's at. We go into the cave. There's no spear there. All there is just like a glow stick. So like we figured somebody else got it or whatever. Somebody else found it. We didn't make it. And I get an email from another like private like account that has like a name that's binary, and it's all like, okay, the spear has already been gotten, but we want you to have it, so you need to meet us here at this time in this place, and you can't bring your friend. So I had to drive my friend back to Arizona and then drive all the way back to California to pick up this spear. And this is when I first met Mr. Schoenberger. It was in like Swarthvard, California. It's like a little like Swedish Viking place. It was the Red Viking Cafe that I went to go meet him at. And I literally walk in there, and he's sitting there with like this older looking lady, and she looked kind of ticked off. Like they would look like they had already eaten. I was there on time, but like she didn't look. She basically was unaware of what was going on, and then all of a sudden I show up and it's like, oh, we're talking about cicada stuff. He gives me a letter, then he takes me outside and gives me the spear, and he was like, all right,
This is all
go and
for
do your thing.
solving the puzzle. You are knighted the new cicada man.
Yeah.
Had you drive over. Wow, this is like
It's
a little
intricate
more.
as fuck.
It is, yeah, and gave you a sword and told you that this sword was what? What did this, an ancient relic or what the hell?
Well, he said it was they were saying that it was the spear of destiny, or maybe it wasn't. They didn't really know,
The
but that's
fucking
what they wanted
spear
to
of
sell it.
destiny?
Yeah, that's the way they were selling it
You've
though. That's what they
squandered a lot
wanted
of
people
shit
to.
in your life, dude, but the spear of destiny was definitely the worst thing ever, right? I'm
Well, I mean,
kidding.
I had it for like a week. Like I took it home. Like I was like sitting in my house, and I was like, "This isn't. This shit's not real." So I went and took it to a couple of places, had some people look at it, and we were just all like, "Okay." So, but I was like, well, I'm already this far. I
So it
can't,
was made in China sword, basically.
No, no, it's actually this metal on the spear tip is actually pretty old. It's like 625 years old. That's what they figured it out. And then the wood is actually older, but they're not from the same piece or whatever. So like the
Oh,
spear
okay.
was added to the
Well,
piece
that's a
because
good touch, though. I mean, if it was actually aged and shit, I was thinking he tried to pass off some made in China
yeah,
at
it was
you. So,
aged. According to them, like I mean, who knows if this guy was even telling the truth? But from what I understand, is that he wasn't even in possession of it. He wasn't holding on to the spear. The spear seems to actually belong to somebody else, and it's a guy named Michael A. Levine. He's the guy that wrote the "Give Me a Break, Give Me a Break, Break
break
Me
me
Off a
off a
Piece of
piece of
That
that
Kit
Kit
Kat
Kat
bar."
bar. Wow.
So I actually, and so when I first got
Thanks
the
for the
spear, I met Thomas.
diamond.
Yeah, oh nice. Thanks for the diamond, and what's up, Boosh? Thanks for following. Right, right.
Yeah, Sherry followed. Look out. I
Jerry
got.
followed too.
How do you do three freaking streams at the same time? That's crazy. As far as like chat, that's nuts. All right. So basically, this, you just been given the sword of destiny.
Spear, spear.
The spear. My bad. The sword would probably be
So,
cooler.
and it's pretty cool because like I really fucking hated Hitler, and I was like, damn, you know what? If this thing is real, just in case, I put it in my house, and I did every ritual I fucking know, and I was just like, if this thing has got a curse on it, I'm going to decurse it.
You do
And then
sage.
and huh?
You do
Yeah, I did
sage.
sage, I did Palo Santo. I mean, I did the
Yeah.
the salt circle with all the
Did you
blessings and the
videotape it?
smudgings. No, I didn't videotape all that shit. You don't videotape that shit. And
My bad.
it was funny to me that this thing, like he was trying to sell it off and play it off to me at big, and like I showed it to, a couple people and it was whatever. So when I took it back to California, I had to take it back to Mr. Levine's house. And that's when, I was like, all right, so now I'm gonna talk to this other fucking guy and see what he says. And immediately, like, this didn't seem right because the dude like just went and stuck it in a closet, right? Like,
Right.
like he didn't care about it that much. It's like he's all like, well, the way that we got it here is that we snuck it in somebody's, there was a movie that was being made and it had spears in it. So we put it with those spears and then we brought it back over here. And that's why it's got the chalk lines on it so that we know which one it is.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, so and their story
That's
was is that they were in Vienna, and this guy Schoenberger,
Vienna.
he said he was in Vienna,
Right.
and they were illegally digging into this Templar treasure area. There's a oak trees in Austria. I don't know, think you know that, but in the area where the Templars all died near 30 or near 7 Blutgasse, that's where all the Knights Templars were apparently killed, and they had a headquarters there. Where there's an oak tree in the ground that's there that goes underground that they like used to worship. So there was a guy that has a shop, a couple shops over, where they literally dug under and basically were trying to like find things. And his story is that he found a bunch of letters and he found this spear, and then that's
All this
what they
went
were using.
unnoticed.
Yeah, all this went unnoticed, number
Right.
one. And so, like, we got one of the lesser letters tested. The letter was fake. One of them actually seems to be real. Like, they have all the real stamps and everything on them. So, like, whoever it is, like, you could go buy fake letters like this in different places, but sometimes you can buy actual real ones. And, like, one of the letters that he had given me had the stamp of like the queen on it, and it's actually like a legit letter, like it's a legit letter from the queen, but it's like probably something that he either A, ripped off, or B, probably found. Like, I don't see him actually purchasing this kind of stuff. And even more strange is that I got to see Mozart's board. If you've ever seen that show The Net with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
have actually.
you like that Sandra Bullock?
I do like some Sandra Bullock, man. I gotta say, I was all about Sandra Bullock for a long time. Miss Congeniality was pretty funny.
hmm Well, remember in that movie, the thing that she found, it was a program called Mozart's Board where she found the trap door.
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I met Levine to give him back the spear, he brought out actually a board where he was like, "Yeah, Thomas gave this to me, and it's supposed to be, like a board from like Mozart's house, like from when he was playing piano or whatever. It was under his feet." And if you looked up anything about Thomas, he's definitely one of those like Mozart. Like virtuoso pianist, like he can play all of the Mozart songs. Some people say that he can't play piano. I know he can play piano 100% without a shadow of a doubt, but I don't know if he actually composes all of this stuff on his own or if he's just taking snippets from a bunch of other shit and just putting it together. And then again, how could you really argue that it's not
I know
composing?
people play his music, some stuff because he's composed quite a bit. Obviously,
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure if there was a faker, but he was a child prodigy. So, I wanted to get into that just to show that when you have a mind that's intelligent like that and prodigy like, for one, when they're a prodigy, they're treated different from birth, put on a pedestal, and they get disconnected. We see it all the time with these Hollywood types that start out as normal people and then turn into freaking Jim Carrey, who's, wanting to make a deal with Q so he doesn't end up at the day of the rope. I mean, that's fitting, but that's also just insanity that these people are doing. So this guy's very smart, and he's also very sadistic, and there's no moral or character there. So I'm just kind of putting some baselines together on Mr. TS right there.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically finding all this stuff out, that the spear was bullshit, the letter was bullshit. When did you say, all right, this is, what were they trying to get you to do, for one, for being the winner? Because didn't it lead, they want you to do some kind of coding or some kind of work for them,
No,
or
actually, they wanted me to help them build the next puzzle, and they were like, "We want you to be the voice of
okay.
Cicada, where you're like the guy that, like is putting out our messages, but still solving the puzzles, but like
Oh,
is
that'd be
kind of like
great.
making this thing." And I was like,
Cicada
"Okay,
number 4. What?
exactly." So like, I found out then that it was there. So it's like after I met Michael Levine, I left, and I was like, "All right, so." This is all weird, and I kind of was just like, this is bullshit. So I decided that I was actually going to start doing this when I actually went to his house. So like there's a very popular thing that happened on my channel where like Lift the Veil had interviewed me. This guy set up the interview, got this guy to pay me $50, and then he like thrashes me over the cicada puzzles and saying they're fake and it's a LARP and all this other shit. And I have no idea these guys knowing each other. So like I walk into an ambush. So Thomas is like, dude, why don't you just come out to my house and then we'll like talk about it? And I was like, yo, doesn't Nathan live out there by you? And I was like, cool. So I made some videos where like, Nathan, you paid me $50. I'm driving to your house, and then we're gonna have a real interview face to face because like I want you to know that I'm just a regular guy, and I want you to stop slandering me and saying that I'm a fucking CIA agent or something like that, because that is most definitely not true and not what I want to be having people say about me. So, like, I did an exorcism on Nathan because he wouldn't tell me that he accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, and he was telling me that he was the Messiah. And I was like, Nathan, you're a little bonkers. And it's like, Thomas knew Nathan, and I was messing with them, but it wasn't until I started talking to the lady that he was living with that I started to really get a sense that there was something way off. And in the room that I was staying, she like one day points me out to this suitcase, and she just is like, I want you to just start reading the things in this suitcase. And talk to me about it. And I started looking through this stuff, and I'm seeing like, stuff for the housing deeds. I'm seeing, lots of bills and things. I'm seeing trust stuff. And then I started seeing like lots and lots of like DUI paperwork, crash paperwork, accident paperwork, to the point where I found out that he had been living with this lady basically rent free for a very, very long time, had in her own words, said that she has crashed her car at least once or twice, crashed a bunch of his cars.
Oh.
He can't drive. Like if you look at his, background report, you can very clearly see that that's not a thing that he's allowed to do anymore. Um, so I was immediately taken back, and he was trying to get me to like do all kinds of crazy shit, like trying to get me to make anti-Israel videos to the point where I would be sounding like Adam Green from No More News. He was trying to push me in all kinds of different ways, and I kept on just saying, no, 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 I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. If there was something that was all right, I would bring it out, but I would always do it in a very weird way that would always piss him off because I didn't say it exactly the way he wanted, or I would interject something more. And I think that he sensed tension in that position. So I decided to start setting up my own thing. And this is around the time that I actually got the Luther Bassett book and I started reading through it again. And I said, hey, I think that this right here could be like it, because he was trying to tell me that we were fighting the deep state and that he was working with fucking WikiLeaks, and that
Oh my
there's
God,
nine
dude.
11 files that are going to be coming out. Like, he had all these fucking predictions that, like, it was coincidental that a WikiLeaks drop would get dropped, and then almost at the exact same time, the cicada puzzle would have something that was referencing the drops. But they weren't quite, like, it wasn't before; it was like afterwards. But people were just assuming that it happened
But they
before.
were using them as
But
part of the puzzles that, because I remember the drip drip, and we get a
hmm
little bit more, and we get a little bit more, and we get some more sick shit, and they were actually putting that into the cicada puzzles.
yes, they were like mentioning like different portions. So like they would mention the name in the puzzle of what was coming up next. So like they said, "Oh, the sonic screwdriver opens all doors." It's just something that's said on the puzzle. Doesn't
Uh,
really make sense. And then you go on WikiLeaks' page the next day, and you're like, "Hey, sonic screwdriver, what the But
yeah,
it,
Jib
it's
Camera just walked in the room and said, "One doesn't permit criticizing the
oh,
Zionist." So let me quickly say, neither do I, you fucking Nazi.
you fucking Nazi. Oh, that's Jib Camera. He's the one that called me on the private call and was like, "Stop harassing me on
Oh, really?
Twitter." And I was like, "Dude, haven't you been harassing me on Twitter and like
Oh my
all my live
God.
streams forever, bro? I love you, man, but I don't love you like that, girl. You're never gonna get this ass, man.
No,
Sorry."
I do not deal with fucking Nazis. Bye bye.
hmm
Peace.
So like I decided that he wanted me to do a bunch of anti-Zio shit, like really anti-Zio shit, and I was
Oh,
like, I'm not
okay.
into it. I'm not into
Wow.
it, right?
Okay.
Like, and I didn't think about it
And
for a
this is
while.
pre-election
Yeah, this is
during the
after the
WikiLeaks.
election.
Is it after the
After.
okay, after because the
This
WikiLeaks
is when they were
drops the
doing the
first one,
CIA shit.
Vault
That's when they were doing
7
it.
and yeah.
Vault 7.
Yep.
So it was before DEF CON 2017, which is I believe like in July. It was like July or August. I could get you the exact date if I wanted to. Um, but for all intents and purposes, like I had it, like I went hung out with them and I came back, and that's when I was like, all right, this is fucking sketch. And the only reason I really stayed out there with them in the first place is because like it was convenient to go to a festival after I lived there because I was like right there. So like I went and stayed with them, and then went to the
Right.
festival. And on the way back, I didn't even stay with them. Like I fucking stayed at a hotel because I was like, this is sketch, and like
So
there's something
you
going on here.
Sherry said that you drove and taped live when you went to Nathan's house. You recorded it.
I never drove to Nathan's house.
Oh, oh, okay.
I
What
drove
was
and taped
that? I
live when
must
I
have
went to
missed it.
Thomas's
Oh,
house,
okay. Oh, okay.
but I never actually went to Nathan's house. Or I was trying to get him to actually meet me at a donut shop so that we could sit down and have donuts and just chit chat, but he didn't want to do it.
Okay, so
He
you
was
were
all
at
like, "You're gonna."
Thomas's house when you were going through the suitcase full of stuff?
I was at Thomas's house when I was
Oh,
going
okay. I
through that shit.
misunderstood that. Okay. Oh, that boy, that just adds it a little bit more
Yeah, and he didn't know
insulting.
that that
So,
happened. And I don't think that, like I don't think that he still even to this day really realizes that like I had a whiff of that stuff, but I was like, all right, well, you know what? Maybe he's trying to like do better or whatever. And I didn't really look at any of his like super background. That was just when I had found out what his real name was. That was it. Like that's when I was like, okay, well, this is actually who this dude is. And I just kind of like I don't know, like I like seeing good in people, and I'm really nice like
well,
that
aren't you making a
sometimes.
lot of money if you're composing and people are using your work? I mean,
Uh-huh, but he
that's
wasn't doing that. That's not how it was going for him.
and he was living rent free. So it's
So I started. to put things together, and then this DEF CON puzzle came out where they said they wanted to do a DEF CON puzzle. So like he had me fundraise that ticket. One of my subscribers, Adam, paid for my way to go to DEF CON, and then I bought my own hotel room. And like I went to DEF CON and was hanging out. I had never been, didn't really know anybody there, but Thomas told me that some people would be meeting me, and then like there was supposed to be a meeting that was going to happen. So I
Right.
utilized this point at this time to do my thing. So I utilized that thing. He told me to only print out one of them and go hang it up. I printed out 500, and I was walking around and handing them out to people so that they saw me and they knew what I was doing. I was just like, "Oh, here you go." I was like, "Do you like puzzles?" And I would hand it to them, and then I would just fucking scoot off. And I'm really, like,
Right. Right.
just like handing it to people and being all mysterious, because they would be like, "Oh, hey, wait a minute, who are you?" And I'd be like, "No habla inglés," and then I'll just run off. So I
That's
did that
funny.
for a couple of days, and then the setup is that I was like, all right, I need to be able to plan this thing, and I need to do it in a place where there's no cameras, nobody can record anything. And then the group of people that I'm telling are going to be, at least a small amount of people. It was probably about 60 people. They have these things called Sky Talks at DEF CON where they don't allow any recording or anything like that kind. They have all of the equipment to make sure that that's happening.
Right.
Like not happening. Like they'll fucking, if they see you doing it, they kicked out Mike Drudge for doing this, and
Oh
I had
wow.
tested it. Like they kicked him out. He is banned for life
Oh
from any
wow.
Sky Talk and DEF CON for recording in there, because that's how sensitive the information that they talk about in there. Because people could lose their jobs. Like there's people that work for the government that are talking about, like whistleblowing in this area.
Right.
Like these are potential people that could either be really detrimental to the government, or could really really help us out in understanding some fucked up shit that the United States government is doing to us. And most people know that I'm not down with some of the more, draconian crap that happens, but I do
Oh yeah.
realize that everything is bagged and tagged nowadays. There's nothing that I do that nobody knows about, and I'm all right with it. I like to fuck with people. I'll just go look up certain things just to fuck with them, like you
Right.
don't know what's going on over here, mother sucker. You think you know, but
That's right.
you forgot that I know how your predictive algorithms work.
Ooh,
And I've been
what?
working on all of them since the very beginning. So it's like with this cicada thing, once I hit DEF CON, I was like, all right, this is my only fucking chance. I talked to the other cicada guys. I let them in on a small, like the other cicada solvers, I let them in on a small portion of the plan. I let everybody in the whistleblower portion of the plan, and all these people, I don't really know who the fuck they are. I just told them this story. I laid out the Q book. I laid out the Socratic methoding, the questioning, and then I made the bullet point that it needed to be about Hillary Clinton getting arrested, because the trend maps and the data visualizations that I was seeing in my research were saying that that was the thing that people most wanted to see, which is fucked up, but it was the thing that made it go viral in the first place. So I do this thing, and then I tell Schoenberger about a tiny little piece of it. I give him a nugget enough for him to like be like, "Oh, well, that sounds kind of interesting," and he disregards it. And after that, I completely removed myself from the situation. I got in touch, or somebody actually put these guys in touch with me. We get into a Discord basically, and like I tell them a very few things just about what needs to happen, and then I leave. I'm like, all right, here's
Right.
basically the TLDR on the plan. Here's what you guys got to do. You go, you shit push for a couple weeks. You have X amount of time. Once that X amount of time goes, you guys burn the trip code, and then it's over. And that's phase one. And they were like, well, it's phase two. And I was like, it doesn't really matter what phase two is. I mean, but if you guys, I was like, we just need to give it up, because we need to see what happens when people pick it up. Because nobody's done this before. Nobody understands that, social experiments like this, we're actually looking at how social groups are operating, and we're seeing what happens when in the emergence phase of a social group becomes infiltrated, or gets
Right.
given up, what can happen to it. So
Right. Is this where
whether
Micro came into the picture as far as he was a puzzle solver and a numbers guy as well?
Microchip, I don't think that, like, dude, I don't know who the fuck that guy is. Like, I've heard his voice,
Yeah,
and
right?
I
Yeah, I
probably
was on
talked
a
to him
D
in
live with
Discord.
yeah, we were
I
and
was
that
on, we've
yeah,
talked to him. That's why,
yeah,
like, when I was shocked,
that
is
was
just as much
tripping.
shocked as you, because I was just like, oh my god, it's Micro again.
Yeah,
Because like
JB
I literally
Micro and
had,
Defango all on
yeah,
Discord. Dank. That was another dank meme. Another
that
great
was
dank meme night.
that was a great dang meme tonight. And these guys, like, they took whatever I said and they just did it. That was like part of the plan. I was like, the whole thing is that I'm not supposed to be associated. I'm just supposed to say that I did the plan. Here's the
Right.
plan, follow the plan. And the plan
Now,
was,
is this you or is this TS? Because you're at DEF CON for TS, right?
well, that's the thing is like I was at DEF CON 4TS just to specifically put out this puzzle. And the puzzle had nothing to do with it. It was just something that people were
Ooh,
supposed to find, go online and start, because they wanted to get, more DEF CON type people. And they made like a special puzzle that was more like the old ones to get people more interested into it, like for that crew. So like I added something to this thing so that when people went, like at first it was just a URL to go to this website, and then I changed the QR code so that it went to the website and it said meet at this date and this time here. So whoever I was handing out those flyers to, like if they were interested in Cicada, they probably showed up to this event. And I passed out a lot of flyers, and I even sat and I talked with a few people after that. And after that meeting was over, I did talk with this other guy called Soldier X. He made this thing called the Mojave phone booth. It used to be a phone booth that was in the middle of nowhere in the Mojave Desert. He turned it into a voice over IP number that now exists nowhere and everywhere at the same time, where you could call it and like talk to people. And
what?
it was actually a part of the cicada puzzle. So like
Right.
portion of the cicada puzzle that I was solving, you actually had to call this phone and like put in codes in order to actually be able to get through a certain part before you got to the spear. And I met the guy that actually made it, and he was like, hey, do you want to join me in working on this red team? And I was like, well, I don't really know, but you know what, fuck it, all right, let's do it. Like I'm a social operator though, so like I don't really want to have to do, I can hack, but I was like, but I don't really like doing that kind of stuff, because that's like the hard way. It's much easier to find imperfect human to exploit. Like, right? Isn't that the best way to hack people? And the
Mhm.
best way to hack people is not to exploit them, is to get them to think that what they're doing for you is in their best interest. And you know what? That's exactly what Schoenberger does all the time. So it's like I'm utilizing his tactics. I'm utilizing some of the methodology from Cicada, and I just put it together into a thing and I sent it out there. Later on, I'm like, wait a minute, this guy, I was like, this Schoenberger guy is going to want this, because at first he's like, it's not Cicada. And after this stuff happens, I remove myself from the origin. I think it was like the 28th, people started going into my chat and they were like, dude, what's up with this QAnon thing? And I was just like, QAnon, man, I don't know what the fuck that is. Matlock. That's all I gotta say. And I just kept playing video games, and
Hmm.
people were just kind of like, "That doesn't make any sense," but it's okay, because that was like the code. I was like, "This is for boomers." I was like, "This is like Cicada for boomers," where it's like simple puzzles and codes, and it's patriotic, and the idea of this was supposed to be to engage the Democratic intellectual. Like, I'm a registered Democrat still. I worked on the Obama campaign as a volunteer in 2008 and 2012. That is only because when I volunteered for the other campaigns, they said, "We don't want you, brown guy." And I was like, fine, I'll go work for Obama and have two winning, presidencies on my shit. Suck it. So when I was doing that, like I went to New
Well, at that time, a
Mexico.
lot of people bought hope and change.
Yeah, I
I
bought
mean,
Hope. I was
I'm
like,
100%. I've never voted Democrat, but let me tell you this: I didn't vote at all until Trump. And it's sad to say, but I didn't care about politics until I seen what happened with the 8 years of Obama. But I got to tell you, the day that he was elected, I was kind of like proud of my country. I lived in the deep South for 25 years before I moved to Idaho. So I've seen a transitioning from, the old racist meant, just it's just mental blocks that are in place for some people that couldn't get past it. But my generation, we were all easily getting past that and seeing what had happened. It was like, we can't let this kind of crap happen again. What
mm-mm.
Obama did was crazy, but I was like, wow, we
Dude,
did it. We're going places. We're going to be united. Holy
People don't
fuck, dude, you
understand
were
what
wrong.
Obama did to me. See, like, I was a defender. I was like, "Okay, change. I can get behind that." Honestly, I was like, "I can get behind a black president. Let's just get the black president thing." And I had friends that would be like, "Well, how come you don't like McCain?" And I'm like, "Because we're from fucking Arizona." And I was like, "And like that
I know
family's fuck."
him.
I was like, "I know him, and that family is awful." I was like, I don't want them to be. I don't want that man to be in control of
Oh,
my
that
country." I was
family
like,
is awful.
"He's wasting hundreds of thousands or millions of our Arizona tax dollars on some deep under fucking ground base in Flagstaff." And it's like, to me, the whole thing when I got into politics is that I wanted to learn politics, and I put myself into the fire because I was like, screw it, I'm just going to volunteer for a presidential campaign. And I went from going and knocking on doors and making phone calls to working on the MPG van, and like looking at voter data and inputting voter data, like very similar to what this guy named Seth Rich would do.
Hmm.
Only thing, Seth Rich's job was not to just put the data in. He was actually tasked with moving the data into a whole new system
Oh
so
yeah,
that they could redistrict all of their voters and do it much simpler. So like,
very
this is
extensive.
stuff that was expensive. And in 2008, like, I was there, people thought like I was like they thought I was like working on the campaign, like I was getting paid or something. And I was like, nah, fuck no, man. I'm just like here doing this shit, trying to, get some experience. And that's when I met Trevor Fitzgibbons, who was doing PR for WikiLeaks back then. And I just kind of like, I knew about it, and I was pretty conservative in my views. Like, I'm not like an abortion activist or anything like that. Like, I'm actually pro-life, although I understand that, sometimes girls need to get abortions or whatever. But I do understand that, like, that's something that's totally gonna bifurcate people, right? Like, those are the things that you don't talk about. And I think that even now, where I exist in the political spectrum, is strange because, like, I voted for Trump, like I went to all the other candidates. I went and looked at Bernie rallies. I went to Trump rallies. And that's the first time that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go with my peers, like what are my peers doing? And I went to rallies in multiple different states to really get an idea of what people were saying. And you know what? When I saw that many people for Trump in so many different states, I realized that I was like, you know what? I've seen this guy on TV, and I remember when I was a little kid, I was like, this guy's probably going to be the president one day. And I was like, what kind of asshole would I be if I didn't vote for this guy? And I'll never forget it, right? Like, I'll never forget this thing. But when I was at DEF CON, like, DEF CON was a funny situation because it's it's such a small little thing that happened, right? And after I left that situation, it wasn't until probably a couple of days after, it was like a couple of days into November, when Thomas was like, "Hey, have you heard about this thing called QAnon?" And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I told you about this. This is my thing. But then I was like, no, this is what he does. Like, you tell him about some shit and it becomes his shit. And I was like, perfect. It worked. And I was like, now I can follow this guy and see what he's doing. And this is when Tracy Beams, Jerome Corsi, and all these different heads start showing up out of the woodwork promoting Q. And then we
Right.
get Brute Describe and shit until December. And that's it. Like, the cicada thing was just training for me to figure out how the psyop works, because cicada 3301 is most definitely a psychological operation, and they utilize MK Ultra like type technology. If you look up Thomas Schoenberger, one of his good friends is called Iona Miller, and they actually have books online where it's MK Ultra for Dummies, and they go through the power and control wheel and how to manipulate people to a very high extent. And it's
Wow.
stuff that, when you look at the emails and things that I get from these people, you start to realize that I am literally like going against mental terrorists, because they stalked me. They found
Yeah,
me. Like,
it's not the MK Ultra that a lot of people think of, that the government's putting a freaking mind bug into your head and all of a sudden you're going to act this weird. It's not that. I'm sure it's a lot of different like sound patterns and things in their videos and people. If you look at the cue cards, the ones that follow, and you show them direct evidence that this is not fucking real. This goes against the Constitution, and they just will never see it. You think that's some sort of mind control, right? He's already
Mhm.
shown them where it's in their best interest to believe this, and but they get so ingrained that I know it's hard to admit you're wrong. I understand that in all humans, but it gets to a point where there's some out there that it seems like it's an illness that
Mhm.
no matter what, it's just disinformation. I mean, we can come off anything you tell me, just like with everything that's gone down with 412 and on being outed, and we're going to get into that, folks. Don't worry. A lot of stuff has transpired in the last 3 days, but I figured we needed a little bit of a history here so you understood the Thomas Schoenberg side of this and the cicada side of this. For me, the name cicada just, I don't know. I think moth and I think freaking, evil. And it wasn't until I really started talking to you and finding out that it was a group of people. My
Mhm.
biggest question from what we've talked about already is, during the first couple puzzles, there's a group of people putting out these puzzles. Did Thomas Schoenberg like really take over and get these people out of the way? Because it sounds like everything was cicada related afterwards, but definitely coming from him. So I
Mhm.
wonder
Yeah,
how
so
that transpired.
in my opinion, he was friends with people that were inside of the puzzles that died, and he utilized that as his opportunity to take over and move it forward. And some people in the chat are asking, were like, "Well, why did you get involved with this TS person?" Like, when I first got involved with him, I didn't have any idea who he was.
You're
Like, I didn't
solving a
actually.
puzzle,
Yeah, I was solving a puzzle and, like,
right?
I didn't have any I didn't think about anything negative. Nothing bad had happened yet, like he had some evil tendencies, like, kind of vicious to people when he was fucking with them, but there was nothing bad like that that happened until after DEF CON and after the QAnon thing, because during that situation, like, I wasn't in direct contact with him over the whole time, like, we were supposed to be starting a business, but he asked me to join a business with him. He called it Shadowbox, and the idea was supposed to be we were going to be online defenders, where we defended companies' reputations and we boosted their reputations. But he wanted it to be more black opsy, and I was just like, I'm not down with that type of shit. I'll do above board type stuff. So he wanted to start this business and he started stringing me along with it, and then also giving me this line about this like Sony deal, this Sony movie. And I had already had the QAnon thing kind of in full swing at this point. So like our boys probably stopped posting sometime in the middle of November, and then after that is when it shuffled over to 8chan, and that's when all the other grifters started coming in. That was planned. Like, that was a planned event. Burning it, letting it get take over, and seeing who
Right.
takes it
Jerome
over.
Corsi came in after you guys released it, right?
Yeah, yeah, he came in after it was
With
burned.
Tracy Beans, and I remember those. I guess I don't know if that was considered the soapbox back then, but I remember those streams they would do with multiple people in Jerome Corsi as they're decoding what they're writing. It was spectacular theater, no doubt
Yes.
about it. So this leads me just believing right off the bat that when you and the boys released it, that it's coordinated effort for Baruch the Scribe, Tracy Beans, all these people to come up and do what they did. And we have found out the extent after the fact of what they've done with analytics, data aggregation, pretty much honing their resources to a specific audience, the boomers, creating all these things that keep them in an echo chamber, and then putting it out everywhere. .edus, dot freaking military dot gov. I mean, all these freaking different anything on the internet they could
Mhm.
send it out to.
None of that
Which
stuff happened until after they got involved. Like, when it's Micro and us, I don't know what Micro and them were up to, but I know that they
right,
weren't doing any big data stuff, because we don't need to do that kind of shit to get things viral like that. Like,
right.
that's not what we do. And the
Oh,
idea
and you
here,
guys have
like,
proven that already. JB coming in with a couple hundred follower account and making things go viral. That's been proven. I guarantee you, they wish they knew how you guys could do that. But I've watched you and Doug and others boost something without having to go buy it, and it becomes in the awareness, and then it da 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 da.
mhm.
I guess.
So,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so with the Schoenberger situation, like, So he told me that there was supposed to be a Saudi deal. He was lauding that over my head and promising me money. I obviously was kind of like, this is probably never going to come through. And I was like, that's fine. If this guy ends up being involved with like these like bad cicada grifters or the bad QAnon grifters, I was like, I'm going to fucking take him down. I'm going to take him down. So I decided to start, working with him, and like I was at a festival. They got it a client. His name was Ed Batowski. I literally had to fly to Texas to do work directly for this guy, and honestly, like I
I
did the
just
work.
saw him. Didn't he just do a show on like a crowd fund or crowdsource or something?
Ed Batowski,
Yeah, Butowski was just got interviewed by
Epoch
somebody.
Times,
Oh, it was Epoch Times. Yeah. Oh, that's Brian
and
Cates.
somebody else actually too interviewed
Yeah.
him.
Okay, never mind.
But that's the thing is Brian Cates, Drawn Strike. He's been promoting that guy for a while, and Schoenberger was there too. Like all of the payments and
Oh,
everything that came through were routed directly into his personal bank account when we were supposedly supposed to have an S corp with different people's names on it. That sounds illegal as fuck,
that's
by the way.
Schoenberg you're referring to.
Yes. So
Everything.
like, and Ghost Crab's in his channel, like the chat right now. He's gonna talk shit about this. So like, I was supposed to get paid
I got him
probably about
already.
$20,000, and I got paid way less than I was supposed to get paid. And he didn't actually pay me. This lady named Beth paid me. So he never paid me directly for anything. I think only through PayPal, which he rescinded those payments, even though like I had all the proof and everything that I did all the work, and PayPal filed in my like defense. But literally, like we started noticing that there was issues when the company started going up because some people wouldn't want to work with us, and he wasn't bringing in the clients like he was. So we only had about three solid clients. But three solid clients is something that you can get yourself started up. And reputation management isn't that difficult. Like we were able to get links, Ed Batowski's name, cleaned up a little bit, but I'm utilizing my techniques and talents, and like I have receipts and everything that I could show you, like where I could literally show you what I was doing, and he had nothing. So this
Hmm.
kind of went on, and I was in contact with Mr. Batowski, like off into on a different side where he was just kind of like, like why are we doing this? Like this guy's lying to me. And I was like, but you've already paid us all this money or whatever. And I was like, honestly, I don't have any access to it. I can't get to it. So he set up with me to get this guy into Texas because we wanted to see how far he would go. And the first day I got to Texas, I met with Mr. Ken Paxton, the AG of Texas.
Wow. Wow.
So me me and Ken
Jesus.
Paxton had a talk, right? And Mr. Ken Paxton was
The
like,
AG.
the AG.
Wow. That's kind of heavy.
Yep. The AG of Texas wanted to actually hire us to, work, to help his wife's campaign. And because after we met him the first time or whatever with Thomas, he was very, very, like he's like one of those guys that's got that radar where he's like, this is a fucking scumbag. He went and looked up everything that you possibly could. And then, Batowski calls me into his office and he's like, all right, you've been here for like 3 weeks and I got to drop all this stuff on you. He's like, did you know about all of this? And I was like, no, I did not. And he was like, I told him what I knew, and we compared notes. And I was like, this is as far as I've dug into it. And, like I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. And then once they started showing me the $400,000 judgments and all of this other stuff that
Ooh.
he was telling me was fake, was actually true, I was like, shit. I was like, I'm going to jail. I was like, I'm going to fucking jail, man. I'm going to jail, dog. I was
I
like,
was just
holy
trying to solve
shit.
a puzzle. What the
I was like,
fuck? It was just a goddamn puzzle.
yeah, I still haven't got my 1099, bro. So like
What the fuck?
I filed for an extension on my fucking taxes, but motherfucker still hasn't sent me a goddamn 1099 for that money. So, like I don't know, man. Uncle Sam's gonna be super pissed off at me, or I don't know what I'm gonna do when I don't get that 1099. I guess I'm just gonna have to file how much I made and just eat it because obviously there's no way that I'm going to not file, right? And I'm sure he filed all that stuff because, he's an upstanding citizen or whatever.
Hmm.
So this goes into the situation where I'm sitting in the room with them, and you can watch this in my stream where I'm in this hotel room for like 2 months, and people are kind of wondering I'm playing video games and stuff. And I made this puzzle for Cicada, and I made it to expose him because he like, well, we need to do a puzzle. You get the puzzle, and then you'll solve the puzzle on your live stream, and you'll look really good. And then he turns around and I'm like, dude, that's a terrible fucking idea. And then he turns it around later on where he was like, "Well, Defango made the puzzle and then he solved it himself, and that's just stupid." But then he also has other different personalities saying, "Well, Defango was never a part of Cicada and he didn't make those puzzle at all." Even though I still have every single thing where I could show you how I made them. I have all of the Photoshop files and everything. So cryptographically, I have everything that says that yes, I did do that, and I had help from Lestat and another gentleman who's really awesome that lives in New Mexico. And our boys, like those guys hated me for what I did because after I left Texas, I was like, dude, this guy just robbed me. He just robbed these other people. He got out of Texas. Ken Paxton and Ed didn't do anything to him. He just basically like took a bunch of money and didn't do a bunch of work, and then he pins it on me. He's like, "Well, Defango was supposed to build the websites," and I was like, "Bro, you were supposed to pay me up to this amount of money. Like I told you, if you didn't pay me all the money that I was owed, that I was walking by this day," and he didn't do that, and I left, and I was like, "Dude, you send me money." And it's $1,000, and it's not the $7,000 that I'm supposed to be getting. I was like, I'm taking that money and I'm saying that's what you owe me, and I'm not doing shit. And I didn't do shit. And
Right.
anyways, at that point the business was shut down, and like everybody says that it's all about this, and literally it's not about this at all. I came out and I was like, this is really what's going down with the cicada thing. This is what I've been weighing on my chest for a really long time because
Right.
like I'm running an op. I'm not a fucking operator. I don't do this stuff. I'm not a secret agent. This isn't who I am. And it was getting to me. And that's why I did it. I outed it. And then at the same time, the same thing happened with the QAnon stuff. But the thing is I did that early. I wasn't supposed to mention that. So like I put Micro, I put JB, I put all these other people fucking in a bad place because of what was happening with me because I couldn't handle everything. And
Right.
after that is when, like all the harassment and everything started. Like I've stayed really tried to stay off of it. I don't want to, cover all this stuff because I knew he was a bad guy, but it wasn't until he started going after other people, my followers, manipulating people like Ghost Trap, who I thought was my friend at one point, even though I never knew his real fucking name. He's like turned people against me. He's like he like, like Twitter daily has threads on, like how I've murdered people or how I'm a
Oh,
thief
you're
or how I'm this.
followed, Defango. I've never had a live stream where I've interviewed anyone where I get multiple thumbs down or any video I ever put out, really. But I've got 7 downvotes on this live stream right now. So, all I can say to myself is congratulations, Smooch. You're hitting the fucking big time, baby.
Hitting the big time done.
That's right. That's right. When it hits 17, I'll know it was fate. Uh, yeah, so this is when things turned, where obviously Schoenberger is like, okay, he probably knew you went to Paxton's office, right?
Yeah,
And
well,
that's
I
what you
told
were.
him.
Yeah, you were. Well, yeah, I mean, like, hey, dude, I just got called in by the AG, and the A fucking G said you're full of shit, and this is what you've been a part of. And so, at that point, it's my theory is exactly what I thought it was, that this freaking cicada thing, it all tied into this Q LARP. And so I'm going to continue with, the theory I think we've all coming to right now is that this Schoenberger could be the puppet master behind everything that's going on right now. Because I don't think 412 Anon or Peter French, is it Justin French?
Justin
I
French.
don't think these are the guys that actually, took the data and then placed it into the social media sphere. I don't think that they are the genius behind it.
Yeah,
And also, yeah,
I
looking
think Thomas is the guy that wouldn't put it out because I could tell you he had enough money to pay for it to go out because I don't know where all that money went.
right. So, only go as far as you want to go because you mentioned that you don't want to really rehash everything. But I want folks to understand a little bit here. What started as a puzzle and you using your fucking mind and turned into all this. You when we talked, it was like, and I because this is where I seen this connection. All of a sudden, everything revolves and it goes straight back to this fucking TS guy, and I started seeing emails, not just to you, but to other people, that was not only like a manipulative thing, but almost a prophetic praying medic type. You're going to start feeling depression in a certain amount of time. I foresee vehicle trouble in your future. It's going to get to you at this point in your life. And when I started seeing that, I was like, uh-oh, we're talking real sick mental manipulation and mental fuck. And I see this after Isaac Cappy jumps off a bridge that shouldn't have killed him, except for the fact he got hit by a truck when he landed.
You
So
know, that email that he sent me is a year exactly to the day. So like I got it 1 year prior from
right
Anthony
after you
Isaac
pretty much
Kepi's
came
death.
clean on you,
Yeah, it
right?
was
Everything.
it was about like a couple days after that. Yep. And I mean, I came clean on all of that stuff, and then it took micro. Like I was in contact with the New York Times. I talked to them. I talked to James Brower, the New York Times, and or I talked to the New York Times and then Jack Posobiec and Will Summer from I can't remember what Daily Beast. Yeah.
Daily
So
Beast, yeah.
I talked to those three guys and I told them all the story, and they all were just like, "You're full of shit. We hate you. You're a piece of crap." Jack Posobiec was all like, "Fuck you. You didn't create Q." And I was like, "No, I actually did Q." And he's like, "I don't want to talk to you though. I want to talk to the guy that posted his Q." And I was like, "Well, you're less of a dick than everybody else, so you win." And like, I think I got a hold of the microchip, and I was just all like, "Pozo." And it's funny because I picked Pozo way back when. Like Jack Posobiec was the person that I had mentioned from the beginning because I liked him. Like I liked what he did. I think that he was like making good things. I saw all the shit that he was doing during the Trump campaign. But I think once he did like the micro interview and then he was like on his live stream, he's like, "Oh, the Defango stuff, that's fucking bullshit, nonsense. Don't listen to that fucking guy." Like I was like, "Screw you, bro."
Yeah.
I was like, "Screw you, man."
Hmm.
Like, seriously? Like, I just handed you all this shit. I didn't know that Gingrich and all these other people were also talking to these people. Like, I just did it on my own. Like, hey, you guys are probably just going to be like, "Shut up, dickhead." But like, these are the people that you should be talking to. And,
Yeah, well,
uh,
at the time, Gingrich and him wasn't talking to Jack about the Q thing for sure, but interest was peaked when it came out that he had info and he was going to drop something. If you remember, it was like freaking 2 weeks later before he finally did
yeah, it
that
took a
damn.
while.
Oh yeah, it took him a while to do that OA in an interview, but you know, it's weird. I kind of think how fate happens. I almost believe that we wouldn't be in this position fighting like the actual origins and the evil that's behind you, if not for the fact that the grifters that attacked at us when he took over MAGA coalition hadn't have tried to grift onto that group. It's like they're so bad at everything that now they've kind of like a freaking alien or something, a parasite. They stuck onto Q, and now Q is being destroyed because of them. That's the way I feel because I don't think we'd have gone on doing our MAGA stuff. It wouldn't be. But once it becomes personal, and once you see the extent of the deceit and how it could really, really affect Trump 2020, which really affects all of us in the world we live in. I'm not saying that Trump's the savior, but if we don't have at least 4 more years to repeal and fix the shit that Obama put us in and others, you know, uh, I'm no slouch thinking that George H.W. Bush did us any favors either.
Hey,
So
dude.
we need 8 years, bro.
Hey, dude, Obama, I always look at it this way. I worked on his campaign, and then he threw a fucking shit ton of my friends in jail. Like that was my thank you. It's like so many of my friends got railed because of his policies and because of what he was doing, and that's when I was like, wow,
Yeah,
like
that was when he was like, "Hey,
Democrats are
whistleblowers."
bullshit.
Yeah, weren't they going like whistleblowers come forward, and then they were putting them in jail?
Yep. They were
Yeah,
doing that, and then
that's
there was like, piracy. They were getting in with the MIPAA and the Hollywood companies, and that's why I think that the cicada thing is theirs, because like those Hollywood companies definitely hate me because of what they think that I've done, even though they have no proof of that. Only proof they ever have of me doing anything is just making banners. That's it. And I didn't do anything fucking illegal.
right. Uh,
Although the website did a bunch of, I mean, you could watch every movie from 1985, every television show from 1985 to the very day, and it was all online and listed on Mega Upload, where you could just go watch it for free. And
right.
honestly, like, we were Netflix before Netflix existed. We were trying to be Netflix. We were
Yeah.
talking to all of
Without
these
the
people.
narrative.
Yeah, we were trying to talk to all these people so that we could become legitimate. And
Right.
they utilized the Obama administration to shut us down completely. And then right after that, Netflix is born. And Netflix becomes, well, what it is today.
Well, yeah, which is shit. I had it for about 5 years, and last year it was like, yep, you guys are dungy. Right after
Hmm.
I got to watch Get Me Roger Stone, then I just let it go.
Well,
Uh, Go ahead.
I said, well, with this stuff that's happened, like I look at it as that, Q was designed originally to engage the Democrat side and the Republican side and have them find a congruence. It was not supposed to be partisan, actually. Like, it was supposed to be focused on nonpartisan shit. And when it changed over and it was actually made all about Trump and shit, that's when I think that it really, like, the programming got fucked up, because there was programming, I guarantee you, everything that was done in the beginning was done meticulously, words were picked purposely, because they wanted people to have a certain effect, and they wanted to affect them mentally in a certain way, because this is social operation mind control tactic 101. This
Right.
is what you do in order to activate the apopnia center of the brain, so people are like, oh my god, Q is equal 17, 17, Q confirmed, like
I
that
see
shit,
it
like,
everywhere. All of a sudden,
exactly.
17 is everywhere.
So once that is done, like, this is all based on some of the investigation that I'd read into some of these books that like Schoenberger was connected to, and I was like, okay, if you're gonna take down a guy like this, you gotta like make something that's gonna be big enough for him to want to take, and then you gotta actually prove that he took into it, and I know that he does, because like Brian Cates. That's his homeboy. Like, he's friends with a bunch of these people, the Vandersteels of the world. He'll deny it up and down because he doesn't. He's never gonna tell the truth about everything.
Well, these
But
grifters stick together. That's been proven. That's been proven as one by one grifters were exposed and they all went to the same centralized area. And there was a couple groups of grifters. You had the YVAs and then you had the soapbox and beans and all that over here. And it's when YVA, ruined what they had and went over there that we actually started really doing damage to the queue. They did it to themselves, and they continue to do it to themselves. Before we get into the sickness that is Thomas Schoenberg, I want to fucking let folks have a reminder of what's transpired. It's almost fate, I think, that I had a lot of problems Friday and I couldn't do this interview Friday. A lot of folks know that this was planned for Friday after Dank Memes. It didn't happen, but on Dank Memes, the butterfly effect happened basically, or just where they found the little thread that led to another thread and everything else. Now you guys know a couple days before 412 Anon, the one Anon that we really couldn't pin down. Everybody else was pretty easy as far as finding out who they were, Jeff Peterson and all these parts. But he was the one that was kind of, he even bragged about it. I'm what did he say? I'm non-doxable.
I'm on. He said undoxable.
Undoxable, yeah. Except when you dox yourself live streaming, something I can relate to. I know some people have asked, like, how in the hell is that even possible? Well, when you deal with OBS and window captures, it's real fucking easy to have a little button click that you don't know that's on, and you don't pay attention to your screen, and it's there. I didn't watch the video actually when he did it to himself, but I know that
I did.
yeah, from what I understand, it was the look on his face. You could see when he realized, "Oh fuck, I fucked up." Is that how'd that go again?
It was just like that, and
There's
then the
the
next
meme.
day he was like
Oh, I need a meme of that. That's great. Oh
next day he
yeah.
was like,
Yeah, Chiclets Anon, hashtag Brown Tar Anon was I got a big kick out of. They immediately went to, this group just will not allow people to work anywhere else but here. So donate. Let's make sure all these grifters, I mean, researchers are going to get paid. I'm sorry, his audience is, I think, too low to support too many mouths. The
I
and
mean, they have
why
so
would
many
you
people
jump
up
to
there.
that, especially if Carnegie Mellon and we're going to get into that here in just a second. But Carnegie Mellon's stance is that his personal time is his personal activities. Why would he just immediately go to? They're going to fire me. Well, that's what was pretty much exposed. First, we find out the guy is 412 and on. His name is Adele Nero. Yeah, you heard that right, guys. Adele,
Damn.
a, a fucking Dell. Oh my god, not quite as catchy as 412 and on 87. Uh, he is a data aggregator at Carnegie Mellon University, and dank memes are going through him, and we're talking about him and making fun of him and laughing. I say we, I wasn't part of it. I was watching and listening, and then fell asleep. And then the next day, could not believe what had happened because oh yeah, I remember this from this time, and because you guys keep every fucking thing you can put things together and you find out that wait a minute, this guy did an Altruex video. What is Altruex? Explain that. What is Altruex for the boomers? Sorry.
Alteryx is a program for data visualization and prediction. So it's utilized by big companies, cost about $30,000 for a site license,
What?
which is the lowest price
Oh, that's for
that
the
you
whole
can pay
company,
for it.
right?
For like no, that's just for like the company to start out with like one or two people on it. Okay.
What?
It
So this is
goes
an
way
investment,
higher than that,
huge
way
investment.
higher than
Then
that. Huge investment in it. So, like, you wouldn't even use this program unless you were in a big Fortune 500 company. It's like that's one thing. So, he was using a program called Tableau, which is a sub-program
hmm?
that is connectable to
Like
this
an
program.
extension, maybe. Is that?
Mhm.
Am I thinking right there?
Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
extension, yeah. You could feed it into it like an extension so you could swap data in
which is
between
much
areas.
cheaper.
Mhm.
You're much cheaper, and you're just getting a little piece of. Or do you work these guys in conjunction? You
Well,
take this visualization, yeah.
the way that it works is you build something within Tableau that is all of the data points and things that you need, and then you're connecting it. You're using an extension to connect it to Alteryx so that you can utilize the predictive models and analyze your data. So
Ah,
Tableau allows you to build a very vast data set, or you could even bring in your own, which it looks like what they were doing is paying somebody to go post their shit places, and then they were getting big lists of links back from the person that was posting at all these places, and then they would feed it into Tableau and then have Tableau set up to go to Alteryx so that it would go and look and check on all of these articles at
oh,
a
yeah,
time. So you could utilize this to like see how big you're getting, see where you're getting most popular, and see what gets the most clicks so that you can then push your data or tailor your data in order to get people to go farther into it. And then it gets crazier because they utilize like artificial intelligence so that they can spin the content. So if I found an article online from the New York Times, I could feed it through a program that would re-spin the article utilizing an artificial intelligence
right.
to rewrite the article so it still sounds good and then republish it out. But
It
it seems
fits the
like
narrative, that's, or just, accentuates points or changes the article completely. That's
it's right.
crazy.
Or it finds other articles out there that are doing really well and then they use it to basically collate their data together. And if you look at what Nero was doing on his visualization charts. Like he was the guy that was building up the 40,000 indictment BS, doing all the research for that. And it seems that all of the research for a lot of the Q posts, which we all know come from online drops, like Micro was doing, like Delta 5. So he was guessing what the fuck Trump was going to say before he said it 5, 10, 15 minutes before it would happen.
Yep.
And, the Q-tards were trying to do this too, but they were doing it in a different way, right? Like Adele Nero knew that there was a POTUS tweets account,
Mm-hmm.
and that this POTUS schedule account, basically, not POTUS tweets, POTUS schedule account was they utilized a system to schedule posts on it. So like the post would be in a pipeline so they could read the API data of the post and know at least 5 minutes before the post actually went up what the post was going to say so that they could match the
Right. That
data.
account got banned, right?
That account got banned and it came back. It came back again,
Did
but
it?
I don't think it's an official account. But with
No,
like,
there's no blue check, and that was the
yeah,
big bell from the beginning when I seen it. And I'm like,
hmm
why are you putting out POTUS's schedule? How do you know these things? And why aren't you having a blue check? That's the biggest
hmm
thing. Why aren't if you don't have a blue check, it's not legit. It's not part of POTUS.
exactly.
And who raised hell when it got banned? The
Mm.
Q-tards, Patriot Soapbox, fucking steel truth.
Because it took away their easy in, like they don't have any. See, I call myself zero skills because that was what my hacker day was back in the day because I have zero skills.
Yeah, uh-huh.
That was a joke though, because I got
Yeah.
tons of skills, but
Yeah, I
like
was
I
gonna
got
say
zero
you tell
skills.
people when they ask you if you play cards, you're like, I've played it once or twice. Go fish.
You guys talk about some pinochle or what?
Right? Play some
Fuck love
spades.
some pinochle. Right? Like I don't even know how to play pinochle. I just thought it's a funny word.
Yeah.
For these guys, they wanted to take as much data as they possibly could. And it's funny because in my phases, like I had phase one, two, three, and four. Right now we were currently in phase four. And when we were in phase two is supposed to be able to let these people, like, okay, we knew that people were going to jump on this idea because it specifically was a good idea, it was getting traction. So this was going to be a good way for all of us whistleblowers that are looking to see who's real and who's not. Who do we know out there that's going to publish this? Why are they going to publish this? What's the reasoning behind it? How do we identify who is a fake news pusher or not a fake news pusher? The
Right.
only way to do that is to create your own fake news that you know is fake so that you can then collect the data. But in my
Just like
case,
getting out
that's like,
leakers. Yeah, putting out information that only you know about so you can fucking prove. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And if you guys are going to jail, if friends are going to jail, if whistleblowers are going to jail, it's pretty fucking important to know who you can trust.
And right now we were like, do we trust, like, do I trust David Icke? Do I trust David Wilcock? And
Right.
David Wilcock became a fucking Q-tard.
He
And I
did.
told people, like, okay, this is how I was like, this is gonna hurt people because we're gonna find out that some of our heroes are goblins or, like are, grifters. And that's okay, like it's a hard lesson for people to learn, but it's gonna have to happen. I was like, because after this phase of the phase two, when all these people start coming in, phase three is going to be the phase where we do the initial drops and wreck this thing. And then after all the dust settles and clears, we go and we look again to see who keeps going, why, and then we start asking the questions. Why haven't hasn't anybody from the Trump campaign done anything about this? Why hasn't anybody involved with any pack done anything about this? Because, like Adam Gingrich said something yesterday, and I figured I would speak to this right now since, we could be candid. And I just
Yes.
wanted to check somebody. And you know what, Adam, I understand that MAGA coalition has done a lot to take down Q, but you need to sit the fuck down there for a second and realize that you should have been on the table a long fucking time ago. Just because somebody put your name in your mouth, you went after them. That's not an excuse whatsoever if you actually want to say that you're in line with the president, because you and I both know that the president should have said, this needs to fucking stop. And if he did tell you, okay, well, this needs to stop and you guys are going to be the one and it happened, that's okay. But honestly, there was a call to action that went out there that went very unanswered. And you know what? I don't like hearing about people saying, "Oh, well, we're the ones that are actually taking down Q." I mean, Q was taking itself out on its own. You guys just accelerated it a really big in a big way, but it's nowhere near being dead. And please don't tell me that you're doing everything in your power to be able to stop this thing, because I have about 5 things that could be done right now today that wouldn't cost anybody any money. But for some reason, nobody's asking me any questions on what to do, because, like, I still have a plan and it still is meant to be finished. But, like, all bullshit aside, like,
Yeah, and
I
I
got all the
understand where
respect.
right,
Like,
no,
I got
I understand
respect.
what you're saying because you guys and we had seen it from when Ginger introduced us to you the first time. I mean, when Zero went after you and you pretty much said, "Hey, this is what happened with Q." Uh I just got to say, I don't think that just because somebody put Adam's name in his mouth, no, that wasn't it. We were more concentrated on this specific group of grifters that were, for you got to understand this too. It almost blows my mind when I hear that how this started was through the same type of, almost manipulation that MSM uses us on narratives and whatnot, and what we mentioned earlier. And so, for me, my eyes are really being opened over the last few weeks to few months on really what this is, Defango. Beforehand, this was just, a bunch of grifters trying to make some money. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about the Ann Vandersteels, and those were the big people we were after because we knew nothing about TS. We knew nothing about Cicada. Like I said, I think Cicada, I think Moth, that was it. Uh, since we seen the praying medic angle and everything go in there and started realizing it, that was when I think it came. I think for a long time, dude, nobody wanted, as far as a super pack, there's no super pack like us for one, but there's no super pack that just goes out and goes after people, right? I mean, that's, or the Q thing or understanding it. I think maybe if 6 months to a year ago I fully understood what, there might be different reactions to understanding, what it could have done, how it fucked the midterms. Adam was on the political side of things telling people, listen, don't trust a fucking plan. Get out and
That's just
vote.
a plan.
Get out and
Oh.
fucking knock doors. Get out and fucking do what has to be done. So I don't think Adam's statement was like, we are the ones that have defeated Q, because I know that ain't it. I just know since we got Medic and Ann and all them to show their cards,
Hmm.
it's actually exposing the bigger, uglier fucking beast behind it that you've known about. It's almost like a drip drip. If you'd have come out a year ago and said, "Hey,
I
this is
did.
the monster," yeah, but see, you understand? It was like WikiLeaks drip drip. You can't accept all you can't accept the ending of everything until everything leads up to it. I
It's true.
hate to say like Hannity, but because Hannity overkills that shit with the same shit, but I wouldn't have been able to put shit together and really understand the awesomeness of what happened on Dank Meme Friday night and
Like,
how
dude.
things started to go ding 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 lining up until I got all this info beforehand. You know what I mean?
And you're thinking that, like, when we looked at that stuff, like, we already had an idea. I've already had ideas of, like, who people are. Like, I don't. Nobody ever asked me if I know who these people are. Nobody ever asked me anything.
Right,
Like, I could sit up here all day and just, like, like, spout off and tell you everything, but nobody's gonna got the time. Like, it's always just been like, well, what do you want to know? I could probably tell you exactly who's doing what and what's going
right,
on. And I knew about Vander Steel and all the rest of them.
right.
I knew about fucking
My
Dilly.
interest is
I'm
peaked
from freaking
now.
Phoenix, man. I know who these suckers are. I've
Right,
seen the grifts that they've been doing in the past. Like,
right.
these are the
So,
people that I was trying to get, and you're helping me get them. So I'm
right,
happy about it. But the thing is, it's funny to me that you guys are going after them, because I stopped caring about, like, doing anything on Q, because I was just like, dude, like, it's gonna be like this for a while until X, Y, and Z happen. And I
right,
was like, and if X, Y, and Z don't happen, I was like, this is not, this situation's never gonna change. And that's
right.
okay. Like, it's not bad right now, but it's bad right now because the elections are coming up. And I
Right.
understand, like, that's gonna be a huge problem. I could see very clearly since the midterm how much this has affected people.
Mhm.
And
I
that's
think
why it's important for it to go away. But the thing
right.
is there's so many people that could kill this thing and don't. And everybody knows what's supposed to happen. Everybody knows how easy it would be, how legitimately easy it would be to get
Well,
somebody to
I
kill this
don't
thing off.
know.
And
I don't know. I mean, well, I know how if Trump came out, but when when they introduced this disinformation angle, that disinformation is necessary, and you start seeing them say this isn't about Trump, this is about pedos, and they're changing the game and morphing as it goes. I don't know if Trump
it's
coming out.
super simple.
Yeah. Well, hey, dude,
No, it's
right
him
here on
coming out and
Pandamonium.
saying it.
Okay,
Saying,
first question I have for you is
"Ooh,
when you made this, you just talked about phases. So you actually had a way in your mind to kill this.
yeah, like the idea to kill it was always like, can we get somebody to just, can we socially operate our way to somebody with no money and just basically a computer? Can we use just basic technology and no money to get the correct message spoken by one person?" And right now, the correct message is QAnon is fake. I do not support radical ideology. And for the love of God, disinformation is not necessary.
Right.
Folks,
Yeah.
you need
And
to
stop tweeting
stop.
treason for
Thank
fuck's
you.
sakes. That's been the one of the biggest gripes that I've had. Every time I see
Done.
treason, I kind of cringe.
Over.
You think so? Just like that, it's done.
I know so. I know
Right.
so because that right, oh, then he just says at the very end, "Matlock," and then everybody die. Everybody's just like, "Ah!" And then all of the mental programming goes away. The key word for the whole thing is that thing. But the thing is in mental programming and conditioning, there's keys for everything, right? So
Yeah, so
the
you'll
key to
destroy
this,
most of it, but the
you would,
diehards, the grifters, they got to keep it going with the
yeah, but
disinformation
we
angle,
don't care about the diehards and the grifters. If the main man,
right?
all he has to do is, it's less than a minute of speech
Yeah,
or
but
30 seconds. It's 15 seconds.
that's the
15 seconds is
political
a
angle,
commercial
though.
spot.
That's the when he's thinking that he's got 90 some odd percent support of the Republican base, and that's his freaking strong point, and he's gonna have to alienate a large. The most. He's not a politician at heart, but
Waiting this long
I
has been a
think it's.
mistake.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. I do, but I see the political side of it now. I never seen it before. For me, it's always like just put it out there, let people deal with it, and move on. But if
Mhm.
you say, "Hey, I'm going to go alienate 10, 20% of your base and piss them off, and they're not going to vote for you," that's politicians don't do anything to freaking go deliberately piss off
Now,
their base. Their
well,
base. You know what I mean?
that's the thing though, is that if he would have said it last year,
Hmm.
he would have had time to lose the base and
Yeah,
get the
well,
base back, because that's
we
just
agree
math.
on that. Yeah, I agree
But
on that.
now people are like, "Oh, well, he's gonna lose 20% of its base," and
No,
I'm just
I
all
don't
like,
think it's
"Where are
that
you
big.
pulling these?
Yeah,
Where are
it's
you
not.
pulling these ridiculous ass
Hey,
numbers out of your butt or something?"
right,
Like,
right now it's
I'm
been.
looking at the Google Trends. It's like 3%.
Yeah,
We could deal with 3%.
absolutely.
We'll
Those
get them
numbers
back.
have fallen so hard. Doug and Ginger have shown me a lot of those graphs of where the people were looking in its heyday. And at that point, when it's flying high like that, how do you just go alienate that a large amount of people? But I agree with you. Right now, we're at a point where we need something definitive.
Mhm.
So, like you said, you're not going to care about the diehards or the grifters because they're a small percentage. But the people that are just boomers that take everything they hear at face value, that are in the 24/7, echo chamber all the time, and they never get out and watch a Defango video or anybody else because they're comfortable with what they've accepted. You know, you're right. I that would be the one thing. At the end of the day, most of us got into this because Trump came out and said the
A
things
tweet
we
costs
needed to
nothing.
hear, dude. Yeah. That's
With all the shit that Donald Trump has tweeted, my friend,
oh yeah. Oh, I agree. He's that
one
would be the
tweet
one.
costs Nothing. And it would
It needs to happen. There's
if it
no doubt.
happened right now, if it happened tomorrow or within the next 2 days, I guarantee you that
But
it
that
wouldn't
wasn't
affect
your
shit.
plan, right? That
No, well, that's
wasn't
the
your
plan.
plan.
The plan was always to get Democrats to go vote for Trump. That was what I wanted. I was like, "I wanna get Democrats to see if I could get these Democrats to be Republican," and if you haven't noticed, it's worked because there's a lot of these Q people that are promoters that have legitimately gone from being libertarian candidates to being full Trump supporters. I've taken Democrats from being full Trump supporters. So, like, the overall goal for the scientific operation was to see if we could get these people to actually cross the party lines. And now it's kind of accentuated a little bit because it's all like hyper Trump and crazy. But that doesn't really affect the overall scope because I have still talked to people in different countries that are all about Q, and
Mhm.
they don't even live here. They don't even have
Mm-mm.
the Democrat Republican thing. It's an ideology that is
It
scary for I
is.
think a lot of people, but more or less that's what happens with mind control. Like
Well,
all of
it's
the documents for this are out there in the public. You could go find this stuff for yourself and do this yourself.
right. Well, these conspiracy theories about the Rothschilds and the Queen and all that, they've been around for so long, and Q just kind of fits perfectly into the world elite, pedo satanic ring. Uh, and who knows? I've resigned myself that I'll never know exactly what happens. And I have also resigned myself to know that the people with the money keep their, can stay out of jail, period. So there's never going to be the day of the rope. There's never going to be 83,000 indictments. But it's easy to see why over there, especially, how do you not feel like your government is purposely trying to destroy your life when the policies just directly destroy your life, through
Mhm.
immigration, forced immigration and open borders and everything else, and then trying to do it here. I understand it hits all the right places, Fango. People that have been abused are so susceptible to this. People that just want to see fucking justice. People my age that have watched the Clintons lie and get away with shit since fucking 92 and before, really, because I was from the South, so I knew a little bit about Arkansas before they ever got there. So, and I was very young, but my whole life has been Clinton corruption. People want to see that. I understand it. Uh,
Mhm.
that's, and I thought that was the reason why it did what it did. Last night we showed, or you guys showed, Friday night, you guys showed that, yeah, it's popular, but boy, did they sure strategically place it in all the places to give it that chance to freaking people to grab onto it.
They spent a lot of money. They spent a lot of money and time making it go extra viral. Like it was viral on its own organically, but then they took an actual big data operation and put it behind it, and they
Mm,
utilized very high level people. You cannot deny that what they have done is awe-inspiring because they have legitimately with decentralized operations,
mm,
like been able to keep this up. You can't like really put that down,
right.
honestly. And it's no
People are
different than
studying
how
it.
Cicada operates. And even Raditz and fucking Pampers, both of those guys, they were watching my channel back in the day. They openly admit it on video. Like they openly admit it being in all this stuff and it being, the reason they did it. And you know what? Honestly, I've had conversations with these people and they're like, why can't Q exist though? And I'm like, Q could always exist, but you guys are not being honest with people, letting them know that it's just you guys now. They're like, well, they'll figure it out eventually. And it's just like, they'll just be better supporters after that. And I'm like, but I was like, that's the wrong kind of manipulation. Like I'm trying to be the manipulation that we've occurred was for a very, very different reason because there's actually like I've always told people that there's people that are keeping data tracks on all of this stuff. There's an entire college called Carnegie Mellon that has been researching every little bit of shit that Daryl Nero's been doing without his knowledge. Why do you think that they let this fucking kid do what he's doing? I
Yeah,
haven't told anybody about this. I even told Doug.
right
Those
here on
guys
Pandamonium, baby.
know what he's up to, Doug. That's why they don't care, is because they made it into an actual class that they're going to teach people about this stuff because there has never been this kind of data. So don't get angry because QAnon's going to get taught at a school. Get angry because Defango's that good.
That's funny. That's funny, but how can you argue with the fact that you nailed it on the head? You have to give them respect for what they've done. It's the perfect freaking way to put it out and build something so fast, make it almost a movement. And they just were doing it for the money reasons. But I was trying to say that, and Doug mentioned it last night. They are gonna study this shit on exactly
Mhm.
how it happened, how a freaking LARP with a couple of guys having some fun and then saying, "Oh fuck," and backing off, and then it getting scooped up and just becoming the monster it is, and not
Mhm.
an easy monster to kill,
Mhm.
obviously.
What
So,
do you think?
at the end of the day, I'll agree with you that I think we do need Trump's help to kill it. I mean,
Mhm.
I am. I understand both sides, but for me, nothing would be better than to wake up tomorrow morning and see a fucking 4:30 a.m. tweet from President Trump that said exactly that.
And if it happened, I would just be all like, "Hallelujah," and then,
We'd be on our channel going, "Hi, POTUS.
"Hi, POTUS,"
Hi,
like,
Adele. How's
"Hi,
life treating you,
Dale."
bud?"
Be like, I think all of the people that, like, you guys go super hard at these people, but, like, they deserve it. I'm not gonna say that they don't deserve it, but, like, w overall, like, this has done something. We've taken addicts, we've taken people with verifiable problems, not just the Unirocks and the Destinimoses and the Pampers and all these guys, like, do you understand the 180 life change that all of these people have taken on in their own personal lives? Do you realize that we have manipulated these people without their understanding into being better people and actually trying to be better people? Although they're still doing bad shit and lying to people about stuff, they're attempting to actually be better in life. And, like, I don't know if they're still like out there doing drugs and bad shit, but like I watched Dustin Nemos and I see a guy that's like, fuck, I have 2 kids, I almost have 2 kids, like, and this is what I'm doing for my life, and I know what it feels like for me, so I know that it feels 10 times better worse
Well, you
for
have to
him.
have a conscience for that, though. So when maybe Dustin Emos, because I heard he's actually willing to like talk to people, but there's people on the other end of the spectrum that don't have a conscience, and they're not trying to become better. They're using good, the
Like praying medic.
imagining, yeah, exactly, the facade of good to pretty much enrich their lives, and who gives a fuck who it hurts? Now, I agree that there is some people when Isaac Cappy, tragically died, I think that anybody with a conscience at this point has to separate. Really. You have to. How could you not, Defango? If you have a conscience. Because
Mhm.
just you doing the beginning stages of putting something into play and actually say, wait a minute, we're actually manipulating people's emotions here, we're actually, or at least we're causing a reaction within people that's spreading. You said
Yeah,
even
that
then,
was the
I was like,
point.
wait a minute, this doesn't feel right, this isn't what I wanted to do, and you backed off. You're talking, it's hit a major level now. And when you've got, I mean, who'd have ever thought the mob boss of the Gambino crime family would be snuffed? Now, I don't know if this
Mm.
guy is a legit Q-tard or not, but they're using him. They're using Q. They
I
are
think he's
spending,
legit.
yeah. So it's like, my God. I mean, I know that's a heavy, heavy load. When I first started chatting with you online, I called Q your Frankenstein monster. But now I think I got a better understanding that this has been in the works at a high level for a long time. And yeah, you may have just like put the idea out there and said this is how it's going to work, but man, there's a lot behind this. And if Carnegie Mellon, another little tidbit just dropped on my show, knows and don't give a fuck. Because really, dude, how do you find out that someone's been using your $40,000 per user software?
I needed data to go somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what? If they already had a guy that was willing to do it all for us, so he could delete whatever he wants.
That's crazy. That's
They
nuts.
he doesn't own it.
Yeah,
He doesn't own
remember
that data.
everybody's response to Carnegie's response was like, "Er? What the
Yeah, and I was
hell?"
just all like, "Oh, this will be fun later to tell everybody on the channel." And if you think about it, like when I was at DEF CON at this whistleblower meeting, I was with people from the government, the director, the DIA, the director of intelligence, the guy that oversees all of the things. I've been involved with something called the Create Studies since 2017, which is a government run think tank where they take high risk individuals like me, people that they're like, I don't know if I could trust this crazy pot smoking, trash
Might
talking
turn into the
activist.
hacker that destroys all of us or something. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
You
no, they
know,
give us their tools. They give us the
right,
ability. And, like I'm a volunteer. Like I voluntarily sign up for this and I go do it if I want to or whatever. It's not
right.
like I get paid or
Obviously,
anything
this is
like
not
that.
top secret, and you're gonna have to kill me after this program. So,
Exactly. Like,
right,
no, it's something that any United States American could sign up for if you wanted to learn about crowdsourcing because it's
right.
a research study. And there's another study that these guys are saying. You don't think like people are always like saying when Q came out, like I was like, people in this room, I need like one person that's got like a clearance. And I was like, Department of Energy, if just give me I just need somebody with the clearance so I can say that, hey, you're on my team. And they're gonna be like, yes, I am on your team. And I was like, so now I can say that we got somebody with Q clearance. And they're like, yep. And I'm like, perfect. So, there's no impersonation, there's no anything. And if it
Right.
all does come back, guess who guess who gets all of the shit if Microchip and JB know what's good for him. They just let me take the fall for it because I set myself up to be crucified in the very beginning. But the idea here is that I'm not gonna get crucified for this one. I'll probably get, like harassed by some crazy people, some crazy cute people if Trump makes that tweet or whatever, or says something about it. But I think at the end of the day, it was, it's worth what this has been all for. The amount of understanding that we have about human human manipulation, and to the point that now we know that people's minds are not exactly as strong as we once thought.
Well,
We thought that the
exactly.
world was a lot higher. We thought the world was like, had a global consciousness of like a 21-year-old person, but in fact, we're like a 13-year-old girl. This is
Yeah, wow, what an analogy. I think you totally fucking nailed that. You're right. You could have told me this shit a year ago, and it would not have fucking in any way really clicked until I started seeing on the other side. I watched the left and knew they were gaslighting and knew they were trying to cause, reactions. When I started seeing every single person on our side doing the exact same thing, just trying to elicit another reaction, it it
using
really,
Saul Alinsky tactics.
yeah, on our side, we always hang it on the left. Always the left. Saul Alinsky, they love him, not the right. But then you see Ann Coulter and Marco Rubio does the shit all the time, and all these fucking supposed Republicans that are just gaslighting the base to get a fucking reaction out of these people. I can totally, I see it 100% now, and thank God, not everybody can see it, and there's some things I still miss, like
Mm,
what you just, that I miss a lot, as a matter of
dude,
fact. That's
like,
why I have to put my mind with your minds and Adam's minds and other to try and put it all together.
well, I have to give Micro the most credit and JB the most credit in this thing because I only talked about these things for a very, very short amount of time, and then they actually went through, understood all of the fundamentals and everything that I was trying to elicit, and then they were able to do it. Like they taught Republicans Solinsky tactics without them actually knowing it. They teach them we basically taught Republicans learned how to be Democrats, the Democrats are learning how to be Republicans, and they're doing it without actually knowing that they're doing it. And it's kind of strange, right? But like we're actually messing with the population's thought process, and like this isn't illegal, like there's no precedent for this type of thing. And maybe there will be one day, but hell, if Jason Goodman can call in a dirty bomb threat to the port of Charleston and 2 years later nobody's done shit, I think we're in the fucking clear, baby, because we didn't make any money, so be good, baby.
Wow. Like there's no precedent for this kind of shit. And that's true. It's another angle you look at and you're right. There's a lot of people that are looking at this to use for fucking future nefarious purposes. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Hopefully you go through a time where you fall for something and then you realize that you need to open your fucking eyes to what's going on. People automatically, especially in this Q movement, you call yourself a patriot, you say, where we go one, we go all, and we want the pedos to go to jail. People just immediately think you are a legit, upstanding, great person full of moral character. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're on a computer. I'm sitting at my house in Idaho. You're sitting, on pretty much the southern end of the country. Yeah,
Sorry, there's some point here.
I don't hang with you. You're not my friend on that level. I don't know you on that level. So how can anyone just arbitrarily say, "I die for this dude. He's fucking I know he's saying the truth." And that's the reactions you get out of these people that just hold on to this so fucking hard. I see now that things have been exposed, okay, in a big way, especially over the last few days. So now we've got 412 Anon's been outed. He's been outed as the data guy, the aggregator. Got Justin French has been outed as the guy that put it out into social media. What do you think this goes from here on their end, the grifter end? What are they freaking doing right now, you think? And how far is TS going to freak? Obviously, TS is coming back after you, and with his goofy, weird tactics of mental manipulation and everything else he's trying to fucking accomplish in your dome. Where do you think all this is going? And fucking A, dude, besides, what can we do? We need Trump to tweet, but what can we do to really put the final nail in this shit?
Well, the TS situation, he's like already kind of extended beyond his means right now. And I think that some of his people are starting to realize that this is more of a personal vendetta than it actually is anything to do with like reality. So I think right now with him, just talking about it and exposing it is enough. But nothing's gonna happen until I can actually legitimately get legal on his ass. And I have everything that we need. Basically, I'm just waiting on an address, and eventually that's gonna come out. And once that comes out, you know what? There's going to be an avalanche. It's gonna be temporary restraining order, then it's gonna be the FBI. And I mean, it's already to the FBI point
Discovery is going
now.
to be, wow.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't we're not gonna be suing somebody or anything like that. Like this is like
Oh,
this person's gonna get 5150. This person's gonna get
uh,
psychiatric evaluated
right.
and like you know, and then we're definitely going to be filing, cyber stalking and harassment charges. But it's in my theory right now with the load of emails and other things that I have. I think I got more than enough to ensure this guy gets his time behind bars that he's been looking for so much. Because to me, it's always seemed like Thomas is trying to say that he's gonna. He says that he's a wanted man, that people are trying to kill him and all this other shit. But really, I posted a link in the chat from SF Gate, and it's an article called "A Hard Lullaby: A Violent Attack Turned a Napa Man into a Classical Composer for Babies." And this is actually
That's
how
TS.
TS became a composer. On one night, Thomas Schoenberger heard a chilling noise outside of his Berkeley apartment window, the sound of a woman struggling to get away from her attacker. When I went outside, I thought it was rape, he said. And he got slammed in the face with a heavy instrument. He never saw it coming, and then all of a sudden he became a crazy person. In 1982, what was happening in 1982? Wasn't there like a lot of murders going out?
82. I was pretty young. I was under 10. So,
Yeah, well,
but we did have a pretty good crime rate, I know, in the 70s and 80s because there was the huge initiative to stop it.
do you remember something called the Golden State Killer?
No, I don't. It vaguely rings a bell because recently I've done some research into California death penalty stuff, and
Well, The Golden State Killer was the most prolific serial killer ever. I think it was bigger than
I do know who you're talking
Richard
about.
Richard
Yeah.
Ramirez, the Night Stalker. The Golden State Killer was supposedly arrested not that long ago, but like GSK was literally killing people all over the place. He was a serial burglar committer. If you go look at the picture of the Golden State Killer, it surprisingly looks a lot like Thomas Schoenberger. There's actually 3 different sketches that have been put out there, and the current person that is arrested for at least committing a couple of the rapes doesn't look anything like this. And DNA evidence from the person that they arrested only matches to a certain amount of things. And I'll tell you right now what I actually think is happening. And I mean, this is just a theory. They used to call him the East Area Rapist, but or now they call him the Golden State Killer. But I believe that the Golden State Killer is actually this guy. I think that he was always this guy. And everything that I've known about him and learned about him over the years, all the stuff that he talks about, his really, really ridiculous inserts into actually like looking into murders and shit. I mean, he's in operation during this entire time when he got smashed in the head, and got his ability to play music. Um, to me, based on his interaction with women and how he goes after him, I feel like there might be a bigger connection here because that dude that they arrested only has DNA for a certain amount of them, and he used to always talk about his partner called Stephen LaFleur, and he also always used to say that Stephen LaFleur was the Golden State Killer and that he had proof and all this other shit. He even gave me a
You're
video that I had
talking
to put
about
out.
Thomas now, right?
Yeah, I'm
How
talking
old
about
is
Thomas.
Thomas?
Thomas is 60 something.
Oh, is he? See,
Yeah,
I've
he's
only
old
seen
enough.
pictures. I've only seen pictures of, I guess, older pictures of him. I've only seen, yeah, I've never seen anything. I thought he was in his 40s. This
So
is
this
interesting, huh? Because I'm
this
looking at the
person.
picture you said, the Golden State Killer, the actual like drawing, police sketch drawing before they caught him
hmm
from that time, and looks nothing like this Golden State Killer they have, and they actually got a picture of him around that time, and it doesn't look nothing fucking like him, not at
And
all.
yeah, it doesn't look anything like him, and the thing is that guy does have DNA from a couple of the murders, but
Right.
Schoenberger was always spinning me this yarn and telling me to look into, the Zodiac
It's
Killer.
funny.
And it's funny because, like, I never really thought about this, and I brought it up a while back, but, it's like so if the Golden State Killer was actually multiple people, it would make sense because, like, he was able to get away just the same way like the Zodiac Killer is still, basically unfound. Zodiac Killer used to, like, put out puzzles and shit like that. Thomas has a cicada puzzle where he puts out puzzles and shit like that. Thomas has a story where he was involved and he met the original Golden State Killer, and he says that, oh, it's a group of Knights Hospitallers who were doing all this stuff. But once I started looking into these, like the areas that people would live in, and when I started looking at Mr. Schoenberger's address history, something very odd struck me that he lived pretty much in all of the areas where this would happen, where this happened in. And when you hear him talk about, like, like when you go through his emails and how he talks, like, I mean, this guy is like fucking crazy. And I mean, what
Right.
would be better than blaming your worst enemy on your crimes? And
Yeah.
you know what? Like, nowadays he's like a big fat guy who's like, out of shape, overweight, can't fucking walk down the street. Like, no bullshit. I'm not even trying to talk shit there, but like that's a real thing, Like him and Unirock couldn't take a walk down the street together because Thomas would fucking die probably. But throughout his entire life, like this guy has been so obsessed with like killers and all this other shit. And even when once Timus figured out that I was doing something, this other puzzle popped up called the Red Triangle, and it had a lot of like similar symbology to like what was happening in the Zodiac Killer, and it was all about death and stuff. And I had found out that he had enlisted some people to actually create that puzzle to help harass me. So it's like he was being my friend, but then he was having people harass me at the same time because just in case if I decided to, like roll on him, this would be what was happening. But if you see where all these murders and all this stuff happened, like he's a cat burglar. You look at his picture. I mean, the picture that they have on the Wikipedia, like I'll send you a picture of
Yeah,
Thomas
I got it.
Schoenberger from when he was young.
Yeah.
They look fucking
It's
identical,
funny because
same
I'm
hair
looking.
color,
I'm
everything.
looking now. This is right here, guys. This is the danger in interviewing Defango, because you find yourself listening and going, "Is this mug trolling me right now?" This is not the first time this has happened to me, where I'm listening to what he's saying and I have to stop and think, "Wait a minute, am I part of one of these social fucking experiments right now?" So
Could be.
you never know. All I know is that I don't take anything at face value, but I always look at things. And when you see pictures, you're like, you never know, guys, where this could end up. And at the end of all of this, it came out that that was the truth. I wouldn't be overly surprised, really. And I hate to say that about anybody, but I seen the emails that he has sent to you, and it's a sick fuck. And when I see,
Makes baby
Isaac
music.
Cappy, yeah, I see Isaac Cappy talking about how he's pretty much what I got from his suicide note and his last Periscope and everything was he convinced himself at this point, but he kind of helped be convinced that this is the way things were, and he was resigned to that. And when he mentions things like someone saying that he's the reincarnation of Jude Harriet, you're into some real deep mind fuckery right there. I mean,
He said he's the direct descendant of Saint Germain, Count Saint Germain.
who's that?
Oh, here, let me Google it. So Saint,
Schoenberg or
yeah,
Cappy?
Schoenberger
Schoenberg.
said
Okay.
that.
See, this
Like
is
he says that he's this. So like, if you ever look up Count Saint Germain, I'll drop a link in the chat here in just a second for the Wikipedia page. Like, so like he's actually gone through like a whole another yarn. This is part of his grift or whatever that talks about this stuff. And to me, I'm like, could he really be the Golden State Killer? I don't know. I actually just still think that he looks a lot fucking like it, and I think that
yeah.
they should take his DNA and test it. And I guarantee you that he's going to come up on all of those things, and he's going to go away for a long time because you don't get to use me like that, buddy.
I solved
But
the ultimate puzzle. The
I
Golden
solved
State
your.
Killer.
I got you, motherfucker. Yeah, well, you guys haven't seen what we've done with the Zodiac Killer yet, too, because somebody solved the 340 cipher.
That 340?
Yeah, like there's one
That was
unsolved
the
cipher.
yeah, that was Richard Ramirez.
Mhm. No, the Zodiac Killer. No, it wasn't
Okay,
Richard
Richard
Ramirez.
Ramirez was Son of
It was the
Sam.
Yeah, he was the
Yeah.
Night Stalker. So it's interesting to me to see what these guys are up to, but like honestly, when you think about this, this is all if you look at Saint Germain, it's all about Jesuit priest. He's a vampire. He exists for a long time. Like I mean, it's really, really, really crazy. But he also did music though too. So I mean, I don't know if it's like whenever somebody's a grifter in this type of way, they always have like a really intricate backstory that they thought a lot about that they use. And I mean, child virtuoso, descendant of
Right.
Saint Germain, and all this other crap. But with the Golden State shit, like this is, his backyard. He was in Napa. He was in Napa while
Right.
all that Zodiac shit was going on. He was in
Personality
Napa.
profile kind of, what kind of people are serial killers?
Hmm.
They're
And
very
then,
narcissistic. Most of them are very smart,
but that's the thing is now
very
I look at
sadistic.
him, he's not in the shape to do this stuff. He can't drive, he
Right.
can't do any of that stuff. And like he's on his death, like to me, he's basically on his deathbed. This is what he says. This isn't my opinion. That's his opinion on himself. And like honestly, I always looked at it as that like even if he wasn't some fucking crazy killer, I still think that they should check him because I think he is. And I don't know, there's just been something that's been telling me that I literally like met somebody that's like, capable and probably has done all this stuff. I mean, he told me that he'd killed people before. And
Wow. Now, is
like
this when you guys were getting to know each other? Was he like pimping himself up, or was this
yeah,
after the fact?
it was like he was pipping himself up when he was like, "Oh yeah, I used to be in the CIA and
Oh, Jesus
I was in
Christ.
Project Stargate." So I'll drop the link for Project Stargate right now. You know, like this is like it's so ridiculous, like how far all this goes. But here, I
Wow.
posted in that one, and then it's posted in that one. But yeah, Project Stargate, and we're not talking about the movie. Where it
Right.
says Defense Intelligence Agency and SRI International contractors to investigate the potential for psychic phenomenon in the military and domestic intelligence applications. Project went by various code names: Gondola Wish, Grill Flame, Center Lane, Sunstrike, Scanat, and then in 1991 it was renamed the Stargate Project. So Thomas Schoenberger claims up and down that he is a remote viewer, that he gets predictions of the future. So this is all up into how his grift actually operates. And part of his backstory is that he was a member in the Stargate Project, and that you can find his name on some list associated to the Stargate Project, Thomas Schoenberger, as being one of the people that was doing the remote viewing experiments. Which, and it's a little funny, I was actually involved with the Stargate project of it, but in California they call it the Stargate Project. In Arizona they called it Curriculum Enrichment, or the CE project. And I would have to actually go to California to interact with these people. But when I was a kid, I got smashed on the head by a 25-pound rock, and I was basically dead, like brain dead, no heartbeat or anything like that. Um, they tried to resuscitate me. I was not resuscitatable. And on the way back to the hospital, when I was coded, I popped back up. And since then, I was in a coma for about 2 weeks while everything was worked out. And then after I got out of the coma, I was a different kid. I was a different person. Had different everything about me. So I was interjected into this thing called curriculum enrichment, where they used to make me take tests and study, like do all these things, learn math out of order. So like when I was in second grade, I was learning how to do algebra. By the time I was in fifth grade, I was doing calculus and things of that nature. And it was all part of an accelerated learning program that I was doing through the public schools that I went to. But I was in Nogales, Arizona when this injury happened, and my family didn't have the money to pay for the medical bills and experiments. So a interesting doctor from Tucson, Arizona, working with a government program, assisted my family in paying for the surgery that I needed in order to get it fixed. And I still have this
Wow.
from.
That's some good CGI, dude. You are so good.
So
That's
I have
great.
this little thing here, but basically, like,
Dude,
like I got put into a government program when I was a little kid, and I was in that program until I was like 16, where this is where they were basically trying to get us to figure out how to do cooler stuff. Like I should have graduated uh high school early, and I just decided not to because I didn't feel like it was my thing. And I was just kind of like, I didn't want to be, I was supposed to go into military intelligence, but when they told me that I had a bad heart, like they were like, "Oh, sorry, dude, your heart's fucked up. You can't go into any type of military application, so your whole entire plan's fucked." Like I kind of, my life was kind of like not over, but
right.
I just decided that I was going to do other things. So like my whole life, I understand some of the stuff that this guy says, but for everything that I've been putting out, like this is just all like history, back history stuff that you could go publicly look up about
Right.
me, like.
But
And
I told you yesterday that I thought the Defango book about the Defango's life would be a very interesting read, but I'm beginning to think it would need to be like the Encyclopedia Defango because holy shit, dude. I mean, you've had a lot transpire, and it's crazy how things morph. If things weren't different, they would, if they were different, they wouldn't be the same. And how you're at this point, and it seems to me that when you get involved in something, the people like Schoenberg and others, I can see why they fear you and they're scared of you. And the fact that you've kind of been involved as a nexus in a lot of fucking things that have kind of morphed into bigger things.
mhm.
Uh, it's yeah. I mean, you're probably the most interesting guy I've met. International man of mystery. That was
Yeah,
Doug Stewart. But yeah, this shit coming out, I'm watching some of the reactions in the chat and everything else, and people are like, "What?" This
Yeah,
is
like
great. I appreciate you giving me some honesty and more insight into Defango.
I
Uh,
mean, this is just who I am. I know
yeah,
I sit around, I smoke weed and whatever, and this to like that's to like slow myself down.
right.
Like
I can relate to
most of the
that.
time I don't get hit up for, to do stuff, but when people need me to do stuff, like uh, that interesting guy will show up and then they'll ask me, questions and they'll be like, "Hey, come with us and let's go do this thing or whatever." And they're like, "Well, people always claim that I work for the government." And I'm like, "No, I'm a patriot. I will work with my government if they ask me." If like
Yeah.
any person in a government agency has said, "Hey, I work with this government agency and I need you to do this," I would do it without question, without probably not even. I mean, if they were like, "You need to go murder this guy," I'd be like, "Hey, hey, whoa, whoa,"
That's not my
But like,
skill set.
if they wanted me to do something else, like I would be more than willing to serve my country because I wasn't able to do that. Like, and that's why the veteran thing's a pain in the ass for me is because like I was denied, right? Like I was denied. I was gonna be I was gonna go for officer, like my uncle was an E8 in the Air Force. Like, like that was my ticket. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to fly planes. I wanted to be
Right.
jetting around in a jet. That's what I wanted to do. And I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. So, like I had to figure out other things. I had to use my brain on other things. And even then, I've had depression issues and all this other stuff because sometimes people are like, well, your life is strange and we can't believe half the things that you said, even though you have evidence for absolutely everything that you've ever said and you've literally put it on your channel. There's still stuff on my channel that people would look at and they would just be like, I think I know what I just saw, but I just refuse to believe it because if it is true, then how on earth is this guy not, you know, the richest man in the world? And you just be like, because he truly, fundamentally doesn't care about that shit. I mean, as long
Right.
as I have enough money to live, and I mean, I know what it's like to be stressful and what it's like to live for 2 years where
Yeah.
people are trying to take everything from you. But legitimately, like, this life for me has always been clearly designed since I woke up at that, since I woke up is what I call it. Since I woke up from that hospital bed, I've always just been trying to do everything I possibly can to like fix whatever this problem that I see in this world is. And I know I have problems within myself, but really that's not
Yeah.
true. I don't, like I meet people all the time. I have great interactions with people all the time. And like I am a little vengeful at times, like for sure when I see angry things, but that's just because I look at like how Jesus did it and I say this is really great. I'm going to go with all this stuff, but there's certain parts of that story that I would change, like
Yeah.
there's parts in there that I understand why it happened like that, but if it ever happened again, like I'm gonna make sure it doesn't go down like that.
Yeah, well, that's somebody that does things not based on the drive for money, the drive for power, the drive for success. I mean, that's a confusing person. I can relate to that because I'm kind of along the same lines, and I got a couple friends that are kind of the same way. If they got enough that they can get by, take care of their family, have a little, do some of the things they want to do. They don't need much beyond that, and that's is their drive. But for people that thirst for power, they can't understand someone like you, Defango, that could probably, right now pick a field, pick something you wanted to do, go fucking kick ass at it and make decent money, if not great money, and be comfortable the rest of your life. You've shown that you have various skills in the computer world that you can just go out and probably pick what you want to do, but you haven't
Hmm.
because you like the freedom of being able to pretty much be you. And if this jumps up tomorrow, well, hell, I can go off on that and try that, and then so there's no way for them to understand you. And I think that's where a fear come in. If I didn't understand my enemy's motivation, that's kind of a scary thing. It puts you in an unknown. So I want to get back on the TS thing because you are obviously a formidable enemy, and he is obviously a formidable enemy as well. And it's interesting to find out he's older now and this, that, and the other, but obviously he's a manipulator and has a manipulative reach based on the dumb shit you deal with. He's not calling fucking the cops, and he's getting people to do all kinds of shit for him.
Yeah, he
So
gets people to do
how
his
do you
dirty
see
work.
this playing out? I mean, I know you're building a case against him and everything else, but uh,
Oh,
do
I
you
just see him
fear?
fizzling out.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah,
I mean, he's gonna die old, fat,
in
and
debt,
alone. Like, his son's gonna be sad about him going. Nobody else in his family. I'll be pouring a beer out for him or whatever, being all like, "You are a formidable adversary, Belial, Lord of Lies, but demons do not get to exist in this
right,
space."
right.
Like if people want to
You
like
don't get to
believe in
come with
angels
us,
and demons, shit.
right?
Obviously, everybody knows where I hold myself, but everyone else is, like, hey, I'm a nice guy. I just want to live life, want to smoke my weed, have some fun, just chill
Right.
out. Like
Pe-
this is a good life, right? We're living the good life.
I don't think
We
people really understand what it's like to have so many years of I don't have your life, pretty much on some sort of data recording. And, they hear these crazy claims, from Defango, but if it's all out there and easily, maybe not easily, maybe you have to go look for it, but it's all there and you can go look at what things that he's saying. For
it's
me,
all on
every time I
purpose.
talk to you, dude, I get a research fucking bug where I gotta go freaking look something up. You know what I mean? If it doesn't ring, like I haven't heard it before or I don't understand it, and I'm like, well, you know what? I gotta go look that up. I gotta try and research it. And I haven't found once, and I haven't, like studied extensively, but every interview I ever do starts with me being curious about this person and looking into them, and as much as I can. And now you've built up a time period with me personally where I haven't seen you fucking put out falsehoods, and it's all still there. Everything's available of everything you put out. So, that's just
Mhm.
my personal take. Other folks that are watching this, there's with the thumbs downs and stuff, obviously, you're not just a character that it's one way or the other. I don't know if
Hated.
anybody that says, I'm just not sure how I feel about that Defango. It's usually pretty much, hey, I like that guy, or I fucking hate that dude. And
Third or
for
the
me,
turd.
that's that
Third or
that's
the
well,
turd.
that's what I want to know. I live my life that way. I want to know where I stand. I hated working for people that would get upset with you and then a year later blow up on you and then say, well, you did this wrong 8 months ago, you did this wrong 6 months ago, you did that wrong 3 months ago, and finally I've had enough. You know what I mean? If you don't know where you stand, how can you fix anything? So uh
I know where I stand, firmly on the very bottom of the ground, much lower than most people.
nope, nope. I gotta say that it's interesting. This has been an interview that I've wanted for a really long time, but I don't think it would have been anything like it was today earlier, because if it was, all these things that have transpired has just added to this and my understanding of, just what we're dealing with and who you are. You're a very complex guy, no doubt, but dude, I haven't seen anybody that you just won't go fucking talk to, and that says a lot. You know, hey, I
I
don't know
mean,
who,
there's
I don't
people
know
I stay
Smooch
away
Panda.
from.
Exactly, but oh, I'm
I mean,
sure, I'm sure you did get that one interview where you kind of got God,
with
what was
Robert
what's
David
the
Steele.
word? Yeah, the one recently where he just kind of hoodwinked you, and then you just had to fucking wax poetic on his ass and say, no, 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 that's not why this was started. This was started as a social experiment to look at how you could. And I
Oh, I
was
know
sitting
what
there going,
you're
yeah,
talking about.
I was.
Fucking Dustin. Is it Dustin? Dustin?
I don't know. I was recently, and I watched it, and I know he tried to portray that what you had done and what this was about was this, and you fucking had to stop him. And then when the way
I
you
checked
explained
him.
it, yeah, you checked him. The way you explained it to me, it was like, wow, this is so much bigger and deeper than I think us as boomers. I'm not a boomer, but you know what I mean. That group that would look at a conspiracy theory and man, it seems good, it seems right. well, I got to go with
5 new
my gut on
chests.
it, you know? Yeah, and it's like, wow, there's mental manipulation going on. You got someone like Praying Medic that I guarantee you has taught himself how to talk. So he has that nice tone, and that you'll buy everything and go to my Patreon. God wants you to give me money, blah blah. You can see the manipulation going there. So, uh, I want to thank you for being a fucking Q Slayer, because my God, the team that has been assembled with the Q Slayers has been phenomenal, and that a lot of that comes from you and the guys the J Anons, freaking bringing in Doug Stewart, bringing all these people, the Lestats, all these guys that are just, I mean, girls too. Holy crap!
Yeah, Megaco had all the babes, I think. I was pretty much just a bunch of dudes for a while there, I
Yeah,
think.
a bunch of hard legs in the Discord, but I tell you what, it's becoming quite the force. No matter the little annoying gnats that try and cause division here and there, try and put themselves ahead of really some very important fucking work that's going on right now. Because
Mm.
you mentioned that this would go on for a long time if it didn't come into check. Well, tell me what happened if we hadn't pound down on this. What would this have turned into, really? I mean,
Oh,
with their aggregation and data and everything, would they have just thrown Q to the side and used all this information to do something else? Or
hmm
yeah,
They were attempting to do that before, but I always felt that they were going to move it into a different letter, basically like kill off Q, because like groups like this fragment at the third portion of the stage. So if there is a lot of infighting going on, they'll break apart and then they'll start, basically dividing into factions. So like Cicada, the reason that they never had big groups like that is because they would just faction people off before it would happen, so that it was less likely that fragmentation would occur, because you're dealing with lower amounts of people, lower numbers of people, so there's less personalities within the social system in order to, and it's less people to manipulate, really. Like, you only need to manipulate these 3 people this way. It's really hard to manipulate 10 people the same way that it is to manipulate 3 people. Even though, if you're talking to a huge group of people, like in an auditorium, like let's say play to 100,000 person crowd at Coachella, like I've done, uh that sort of thing, like changes things. Like, when I'm a guy that spends his time, like sitting in a crowd talking to people within the crowd while my set is going on, and these people don't realize that I'm actually part of the set, and I get up and I go up onto the stage and then I do my thing. Like, these are the types of things that other people don't think about, like they don't understand like the fifth dimension, or I call it fifth dimensionalness of, like really, really starting to plan how you're going to interact with people and how to create experiences. Because like I like to create experiences, my life isn't experiences that I'm having, but my YouTube channel is just a window into my experience that I fully control, but I'm very transparent about pretty much everything that's on it, and I leave little clues and hints about stuff that I don't speak about, but I will show it to you, but I don't explain it, because like it's a gift. It's like something that I'm just all like, by the way, here's this thing that I did that changed everything and nobody even knows about it. And like it'll be like that forever, because nobody really wants credit. Like, I never wanted credit for Q. I wanted people to learn from this situation. I wanted people to grow from this situation, because it was my theory that, because in my experience, once I learned about all of this like mind manipulation stuff and this control shit, that I am no longer susceptible to it, and I can identify it now. I don't think that other people have that ability, and the only way to teach them is to do it to them in a way that is controlled.
right. It's almost like a responsibility once you something that's wrong and can be used in a bad way. If, like you said, it goes back to if you have a fucking conscience or soul or a moral character or code at all, you see that, wow, it's like we see it all the time. The people that were performing the worst of all the scams end up, as part of their repentance and turning themselves around, they usually start working for the authorities and saying, listen, this is how I managed to get by all your shit. fix it. You know what I mean? So, not saying that's you to an extent, but it seems to me that, see, you guys, when you go into a mindset of this is a project and we're going to try and see what we can do with this, and holy crap, look at this reaction. It's a totally different mindset than the people that are going through it. The people that are looking at social media and are like, why is this fucking Q shit blowing the fuck up? Why? You know what I mean? So I say this to you, that, think about that a little bit too, because you're full of a fucking ton of information, dude. And us people that are just all putting this together now, we don't have all those pieces, and we still don't have all, the pieces that you have. But remember that we're all being coming along and digesting this as we can. And it seems to me that it, I would be the worst teacher in the world, because I have problem fucking knowing something and explaining something to someone else. I want you to know. Why don't you know? This is the way it is. Boom, move on. You know what I mean? So that's how I kind of look at this, is that you're waiting for people's to get to a catch up to a certain point before
I have to be patient.
you do. And I tell you what, man, this has probably been one of my top interviews. I told you on the phone what my plan was. I've interviewed Doug, I've interviewed you. I'd love to interview JB if he finds the time. And then when this is all over, as far as over it can be, as far as every grifter destroyed, and let's get together, all of us, and talk about it, have fun.
Hmm.
I
I think it'll be
appreciate
fun.
you. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on to Pandamonium. I knew it was going to be interesting. I didn't realize I was going to learn as much as I did, and more little dots connected. So, dude, my platform is open to you at any time. And if you see us heading in a direction that, it's like, wait a minute, we're chasing a gaslight instead of, what really has to happen, feel free to let me know when you see things. You know what
It's
I
like
mean?
today, bro. It's like today with what's his name, Craig.
Yeah.
Cut
Oh,
that
yeah.
shit out. Stop fighting with those people.
Yep. Yeah.
Craig's not worth our time, dude. Like Craig's not worth our time.
No.
What's it called? Fiona Barnett's not worth our time. Like so many of these people, like especially the Q people, like you guys are like you. This may sound odd, but fucking with those people right now, it doesn't help. It helps us, like it's fun, but it doesn't really help right now because uh we need to just like give them a second. It's like today we had one person messing with us, like one person,
Yeah.
and then their account got locked. But it's so low now. Like I think it's just basically time to just like quiet down on all of the social media fronts. Like I'm not saying we just stop attacking Q because that's not what we do
No.
at all.
No.
We
No.
just stop talking to Q people.
Right.
Like
Right. Craig Sawyer's
ghost
is
them.
someone that, I watched early on and was like, wow, I really respect what this guy's doing. That's my kind of my thing, dude. Military veterans. I support all of them. And so it was a big shocker for me to see him talking about Gitmo. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it's one of those things where it's like, this guy knows better. At the end of it, it wasn't that I wanted to argue the fact that it's unconstitutional. It's that this fucker knows better. And yet he
Hmm.
still is talking about fucking Comey and Gitmo.
Yep, and he's just it's so powerful. Like this is dangerous. This is scary. This should be this should scare people that like people with a laptop, like a guy like Micro could like wing somebody's like the entire populace, like all these people like this to the point where they're so stuck into it and there's so much programming in those first couple of posts that everything else after that came out is just messing with the original programming. That's really all it is. And
Right,
like I think that us as human beings, we like to think that we are so great, we're so smart, but the reality is that we are complex things, but the Lord very clearly told us that, we're not infallible and we're easily manipulatable,
right, right. There's
like
no new thing
extremely.
under the sun. There's
There's
no new
nothing new.
thing under the sun. There isn't. It's just a different form of it. So I think
Hmm.
we'll leave it on that. If any Q followers happen to freaking watch this, uh, keep watching. That's all I can say. Keep watching. I'm not trying to turn anyone anymore, but I know that there's a hidden group of people you can see in the numbers that are just being peeled off one by one. And it's the work that's happening with JB, you, Doug, MAGA Coalition, Roosevelt Media, several others that have just made it their mission to expose this. And I think the nexus of things really starting to really happen was when you were brought in a lot more. And so I put it out there to all Q Slayers. Uh fucking pick Defango's brain. The dude's got an idea, he's got a plan, and good God, pray that
Trust the
Trump
plan.
frickin' finally says Q's fake.
Well, I
That would
mean,
be great.
the plan only works is if people voluntarily look at what I'm saying, listen to what I'm saying, and then just realize that it costs nothing. Nothing of importance at this point will be lost, and the entirety of everything will be done. Like, there's going to be news articles, sure, that are attacking the fact that the president even said it, but you guys already know what we need to do if that happens.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the floodgates. I think will open. There's no way they're going to be able to spin what the president says as disinformation. They're just not going to be
Hmm.
able to. You'll get a
Especially
few.
it says if he says disinformation is necessary.
Right.
No.
No. That's bullshit. I mean, it is. We all know it's bullshit. My God, the guy is the most candid person on Twitter. Pretty much, he doesn't need to mince words or talk in riddles at all. But he does need. Oh wow! I just sorry, I lost my train. I just see Lestat put out a video. Unirock, Defango, MAGA Coalition, and a UFO. You know what I'm doing tonight.
Hmm.
Awesome. All right. Thanks to Defango a lot for coming on. You guys go check Defango out at D Live. Go ahead and tell folks. You got a lot of
Yeah, you can go
places.
check. You can check me out pretty much anywhere on the internet under the name Defango. But I'm zero skills on Twitter. Don't even worry about looking for me on Twitter because I'll probably get banned tomorrow anyway.
Yeah.
But what's it called? You'll find me zero skills on Twitter. You'll find me. Um, but you can find me anywhere: YouTube, youtube.com/Defango, DLive TV/Defango, Periscope at D3Fango. And, honestly, we do live streams all the time, but I always, I'm trying to support the family and all the new friends that we're making here. And honestly, I say thank you very much to Smooch for, having me on and letting me talk about this stuff. Like, for some people this isn't anything new. This is just, me repeating myself, but I think it's important for you guys to, at least have a good understanding of where I'm coming from, because I understand that I'm not the normal animal you're used to.
That's a fact. And that's exactly why I wanted to do this interview because I have all these questions and I know that people are just like me and they're like, wait a minute, where does all this connect? And so I think tonight we really did connect some dots. And yeah, your diehards that known you, like you said, they've heard it all before, but you have to know that more than half of my audience, if not like 75%, have never or they've
Hmm.
never put it together like they did now. So I definitely appreciate that. You guys check out Friday nights. Dank Meme Trading Company is probably the best show on the interwebs, all of them. And you never know what's going to happen. It could be a night where you're just throwing out these memes and laughing your ass off at what's going on, or magic could happen when a few minds get together. So it's one of the most interesting shows out there, guys. Friday nights, Dank Meme Trading Company. Cool. I don't know when I will see you guys again. You know me, I come and go as I can, but this next week's going to be real busy. So I don't have any cool music to sign off. I'm just going to say appreciate it. Thanks again, Defango. You guys check out Defango TV and Merlin Defango at YouTube.
Thanks so much.
Peace.
Later.